Hey, this is Benjamin Mara. You're listening to 11 O'Clock Comics.
Nice. Powerful. I don't know if Discord is injecting a little bit of potency into here.
A little chutzpah?
Yeah, I think so, because he's louder than he's ever been. So it's a trade-off.
Word up.
Happy we're not using Skype anymore.
Yeah. Thank the patron saint of Sanford Green for getting us off the Skype. It's
like
funny.
He's like our wise old uncle, putting his arm around us.
No, it's funny. If somebody, I don't know, whatever, Terry Kavanaugh came on the show and he'd be like, yeah, you're using Skype. Jason'd be like, what? Sanford Green says get off Skype. Jason's like, word.
No, wait a minute. The reason because he mocked us.
He did.
He was he's incredulous that these three men who he generally thinks well of were.
That it should be smarter than that.
He's like, you guys are busted.
You're better than this.
It's exactly it was he had pity for us.
I know.
It's true.
Well, I'm glad he instigated some change because change is a good thing, and in this case, change is a very good thing because we get to we have a soundboard. Hey everybody, it's 11 O'Clock Comics episode 943. And I am Vince B.
Jeeves. I am David A. Price.
That's true, and you can play with my multiple warheads because I'm Sexica.
You're not Sexica. You're Jason Wood. Everybody together again on this episode. Very special episode because we have a guest. And that guest is the great Brandon Graham. And you're going to hear an awesome interview. I think one of our better ones coming up. But let's remember who made this stuff possible. CheapGraphicNovels.com. Everything you need to know is in the name. CheapGraphicNovels.com. If you want your OGNs, your manga, your omnibus editions, your trade paperback collections, all that stuff on the cheap, you go to CheapGraphicNovels.com. I don't know why there's an echo. It's still happening. Jason probably has one headphone out of his ear or something.
That's not true.
It's probably true. But
I don't hear an echo for the record, so.
I kind of do, but it's okay. CheapGraphicNovels.com will get you stuff lower priced than anybody out there. And if you're a first-time buyer, here's what you're going to do. Order something. Limit yourself to one or two things. Right? And then you're going to get an email confirmation saying, thank you for ordering from CheapGraphicNovels.com. You're going to reply to that email message saying, I would not have known about the greatness of CheapGraphicNovels.com were it not for my buddies at 11 O'Clock Comics, and Max is going to gift you free shipping on your next order. And that's when you load up. Get it
True.
all. Get it all.
And one of the books you're going to hear about, Surviving on Mars, you can pre-order it. Well, it's coming soon. It's in their coming soon section now. But it is a whopping $11.24 on Cheap Graphic Novels.
It's crazy for that book.
You can also go ahead and get 2 Moonray books, which I have and which should be arriving any day now. They're
my God.
They are. I know it's crazy. Max
He
doesn't love me. It's fine. $26.25 for Volume 1, Mother's Skin. $26.25 for Book 2, Echoes of Ascension.
Well worth it at twice the price.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes. So, CheapGraphicNovels.com. Thank you. Wow. They don't know what's coming, but I am so jazzed at what we just laid down. I thought it was great. Brandon was very open, very forthcoming with all of his comments. It was a really very good. You know what? I hate doing this because it's like, how many of you out there have actually listened to a podcast saying, oh man, this thing took me so long to edit. Like nobody gives a shit, right? Nobody cares. And for me to say, oh, the interview you're going to hear was really good. That kind of sucks, but it's true. I think the interview we just did with Brandon was wonderful, very open, and it was a very enjoyable time. And you're going to listen to it right now after we tell you what we're drinking, because it's that time, right?
It is that.
I have had way too many of these already, but I'll tell you what they are. From the Trogs Independent Brewing Company. This is the Perpetual IPA. This is number 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, I just finished it, to be honest with you, but I was drinking some delicious Glacier Cherry G0.
Oh, my God.
Cherries grow on glaciers?
I had a shit day, so I had to have the IPA today.
I hear that.
Yeah.
I am enjoying, well, I did enjoy, a delicious crafted cocktail courtesy of the Bartesian. I had a whiskey sour this evening. What?
Nice. No, it's good.
What are you laughing at?
Courtesy of the Bartesian. It's a machine.
That's
Press
right.
a button.
I tipped
Oh,
them.
yeah.
I tipped them. And just getting back real quick to the love you were slathering all over. I do not listen to too many of our episodes, but this is one that I have a feeling I will be listening to.
Look at
in the
you
very
all
near
grown
future.
up and shit.
Oh, runs up.
Aw.
This was a lot of fun. This was
It was, man. It feels good because, you know, as we talk about, he's been on the show. Okay, the soundboard is wonderful. Oh Lord.
You were saying.
Yeah, well, it's been over a decade, right? And
Yeah.
admittedly, the I don't think it's talking out of school that, you know, that conversation, it didn't have the vibes that we were hoping for, right? Like back then, and
No.
so I feel like it's very nice and cathartic because I feel like, you know, we've all we're at a different place in life, and it was great.
Yeah, well, he basically made fun of us. Well, me, because I said world building. He's like, oh,
said, right.
fuck that. I'm not. Yeah. But
I'm
what-
Brandon Greer, bitch.
no, he seems like he's in a very good place.
Absolutely.
And I
Right.
think a lot of it. I mean, I don't want to judge, but I love the guy. So, you know, I can be fanboy once in a while. I think Casey is the reason why he's in a good space.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would be too. Yep. So here you go. Here is our talk with Brandon Graham. Stick around because at the end we'll be back to talk about some comics.
Yes, and we promised you a guest this week, and we hinted that it was a guest that had been on the show before, but it had been a minute, and we're extremely excited to have them back. This person was on our show back in August 29th, 2013. Over 12 years.
It's ridiculous.
12 years ago we had this gentleman on, and I guess it's good to say that he has done a hell of a lot of awesome comics since then, and we've talked about, pretty sure, just about every single one of them. We should definitely have talked about every single one of them. So this is a gentleman who's brought us things like Pillow Fight, Multiple Warheads, King City, Prophet, Island, 8 House, Rain Like Hammers, and right now is bringing us that great goodness in the version of Moonray with his partner Jojo Penalta, and another thing we're going to be talking about tonight that you all get to lay your eyes upon in a few months, Surviving on Mars. Please welcome back to the show, Mr. Brandon Graham.
Thanks for having me on, gentlemen.
Yay. It's
Great
good
to have you back, man.
So
Yeah.
good.
Thanks for coming back.
It really is
Absolutely.
crazy that it's been 10 years.
12, dude. 12.
12 years. Well, math, I'm not good. Yeah.
Right.
I'm happy to hear that comics hasn't burned any of us out, and we're still at it.
Oh, never. No.
Well,
Even though
we
they'll
get
break your heart.
the nice thing about a 3-person show is when one of us is feeling burnt out, the other two can carry the torch, you know.
That is helpful.
Speaking for himself.
So what have you been up to these last decade?
Oh, lots of stuff. Mostly drawing comics, which is good because that's what I like to do.
For sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been moving around a lot, which is good. I'm in Los Angeles right now for 2 more months, and then I get to escape back to Las Vegas and hide in the desert again.
Yeah, I was going to say, I assumed you lived in Vegas based on what we're going to be talking about here in a minute. So do you guys try and do that? You try and park up some other places every couple months just to change it up?
I mean, just yeah, I guess so. Basically, I was in a house with a bunch of friends, and then the lease finished, and we were like, let's try out LA for a year. And after a year in LA, I'm excited to go back to Vegas.
That's amazing. The artistic lifestyle that you've cultivated to make art in one location, and then, you know what? Let's pick another location and let's make art. Like, that is amazing to me, who has a 9-to-5 job.
I mean, it has its drawbacks, but I mean, part of it is I have to remind myself that it is possible to live in other cities. I mean, that's part of it. Las Vegas is like, why would anyone ever move there? You know, it's a bizarre place, and then it really grew on me after a couple of years there, and now no other city will do.
I kind of love Las Vegas.
Vegas appealing.
Oh,
yeah,
Vegas is great.
Well, yes, you've been there way more times than I have, but everything that I know about Vegas, what I've seen, what I've heard, other friends who have been there, once they get past the oppressive heat, is what else there is to do there. But I know what Vegas is known for, but knowing that someone can actually make a life, and whether it's there for months at a time or however long, but it is nice to know that it actually can be livable, and I love that aspect. That obviously, that's being wandering isn't something that Vince or I could do. Jason maybe he could be he's a lot more remote than we are, but that's one huge benefit of being an artist, is that if you feel like drawing from a different view, you can just pick up your things and move to a new city for a while.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's a cool thing about it. And I should qualify that Vegas is, I feel like living there is very different from its reputation. It's almost like a camouflage of it. And it really grew on me just from, like, I think it might have more good comic stores per capita than any other city I've been to. It has 14 comic shops there.
Oh, wow.
Look at that.
I had no idea.
So how would you say Vegas influenced the art? Because there were some passages in Moonray. Like, I spent a lot of time in Vegas, especially in the desert. And I'm thinking the landscape is very similar to some sections of Moonray. And how has your environment influenced your art?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, probably more so being in Vegas than, living in Canada or Portland or Seattle or all those other places, just because it is so alien from other places. And, it feels like you're in a Mobius comic when you go out in the desert.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, and there's specific things, like in Moonray Volume 2, I had this living city called the Green, and it has a kind of beam of light that shoots up to a living satellite that kind of conveys these it like brings back space waves that causes these giant obelisks to dance in the middle of the city. And I drew that kind of just thinking like, oh, here's a weird science fiction idea. And then after I'd drawn it, I realized that I'd completely just drawn the beam of light that comes out of the Luxor pyramid.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Oh, yeah.
And you touch upon that in the Mars book too, the diary comics. Yeah.
Yeah, the Mars book gets much more. And I should qualify the Mars book is like a collection of my diary comics, and so that's much more like just saying exactly what's happening in my life at the time.
It's pretty raw. I love it. I sunk into it, and I really one of the hallmarks of a good comic to me is when I fall out of time. I lose track of time and place, and I just sink into a book and just get taken away by it. And that's what happened when I was reading Surviving on Mars, because it's so unfiltered.
Oh, that's good.
You bounce around from process to personal to one of my favorite passages is when you're talking about Murakami and the t-shirts, and you're like, yeah, I have a heavy metal t-shirt, but it's not the heavy metal movie or heavy metal writ large. It was that really specific period of heavy metal history. That's why I'm, wearing the t-shirt. And I feel exactly the same way. I hate the movie. I think the movie, I didn't like it when it first came out. I don't like it now. But heavy metal as an entity is very, very special to me. Just not
I guess
right. I sympathize. Just not all of heavy metal. Right?
I think there's a bunch of movies that are better heavy metal movies than the heavy metal movie. Because, there's that Gondahar Light Years movie that's really good.
Rock and Rule is a better heavy metal movie than heavy metal.
Oh, yeah. Rock and Rule.
Yeah.
There's a bunch. I just saw a recent one that I think would be a good heavy metal movie. Have you guys seen Mars Express?
No.
The animated French movie that came out maybe a year ago.
Interesting. I'll put that one on the list.
Making a note of that, yeah.
Yeah. And from the Diary comics, you and I share a love of Matt Howarth.
Oh, yeah. I have a huge Matt Howarth fan. I actually got him on the phone like a week or two ago.
Really? How long did that conversation last?
It was like a 5-hour conversation.
Oh, damn.
No, that dude is like, he's tapped into something really strange. Yeah. And if you can start talking about music with him, you're done.
Yeah, and basically my only inroad into the type of music he listens to is through his comics. So it's, because he always put characters, the Residents or Nash the Slash or something in his comics and make them fictional characters. And I read them for years before I realized they were all real people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was reading these when I was like 13, so.
Right. One of the things I really appreciated about his comics is in the back pages, how he would list the albums that he was listening to while he was making the comics. And it introduced me to a lot of really good music that wasn't played on the local stations or even the college stations. Like, this was really fringe stuff that he was listing, and the only way I heard about it was through the back pages of his comic. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. There's a newer publisher now called Cosmic Lion that printed a comic of his, and the publisher that's been talking about just doing a collection. I'm not spilling the beans on anything, but I think he's talking about doing collections of his music reviews as a book. Something I'd be really excited about.
I'm down for that, 100%. Yeah, I just don't understand why the annoying Post Brothers hasn't been collected. Like, there's so much of it. Start collecting it.
Yeah.
It's such a fringe. It's surprising when you see the old issues have like pull quotes from like big name, like there'll be like an Alan Moore quote on it or something.
Yeah,
and it's kind of surprising because for me he's like one of the most innovative cartoonists to ever do it, and most people don't know his name.
This is true. It's unfortunate, but you're right. Yeah. Yeah, he's amazing.
One thing I really enjoyed about Surviving on Mars is and again, I mean, it's been over a decade since you've been here, and I think we've all the sense of maturity that I get because you have the one page where you decide to you read some emails from some former friends and then you decided to reach out to them, and 10 the 5 might be too close, but 10 years ago that's not something I can. It's a surprise to those close to me. I can hold a grudge. So there are definitely people where I'm good if I never hear or see or speak to you again. Sure. But once you hit a certain point, and we're all about the same age, the 4 of us tonight, and there is a point in your life where you realize that there's less time ahead of you than there is behind you. So you do, maybe amends might not be the right word, but just some closure or just to make sure that there's that people can move on. And I should have expected it, knowing what came before and after in the rest of this diary, but it kind of just really brought me back down because the drawings and everything you're writing is extremely entertaining, but that really kind of just sucked me in, and I was it's a shame that it's not a shame. I was absolutely zeroed in for the rest of the book, but that's it was neat to see within everything else that you have.
Oh, thanks. I mean, it's a weird thing because I mean, a lot of like I talked around a lot of stuff in the book because there's a lot of like me dealing with like having big public fallings out with groups of friends, and so a lot of it was me. Like miscommunication is something that I want to correct. And it's like if somebody's mad at me, I want them to be mad at me for reality and not because they heard something from somebody else to be mad at me, And so that's been a difficult thing about kind of being, it's funny to call myself like a public figure because it's not like I'm, calling you from my mansion or anything, but it is like I financially survive off of people reading my work. So they kind of have this idea of me, which is outside of myself. And that's a weird thing to contend with when also it affects your like friendships and relationships and everything.
And that's which a few pages before that, when you were talking about your Disney trip. And I remember when that Kickstarter came out and a lot of our listeners on our Slack, whenever, we have a whole channel dedicated to Kickstarters and crowdfunding books. Sure. And we're always, a lot of the folks are in tune, or they'll check out some sites from time to time and see what else is going on out there. But there were some comments when that Kickstarter came out, and your name was attached to a pinup in it. And because you even said yourself, they canceled someone and I'm doing a pinup in this book. And I, as soon as I saw that paragraph, I was like, I know exactly where I was when I read that on our Slack channel and what the whole thing was about. But yeah, right.
It becomes really weird when canceled people, which kind of was a epidemic in comics for a while that's hopefully calmed down. But
that's for sure.
But a lot of it was like I would reach out to people and because I've been in the barrel myself, and I don't want. It's like your reaction when you hear that somebody's like people are mad on the internet is you either want to pull away or investigate to understand what it is. And there's a lot of people where I'm just like, I don't know about these people's personal life, but my interactions with them have always been decent, and so I have to just continue to treat people like people. Mm-hmm. And that was a weird one because I knew kind of both sides of this big public cancellation, and I was like, I just want people to kind of grow past it. And it sucks if people are hurt at all, but it's like I don't want to add to anyone's hurt. Which is it's hard to gauge too because you do a pinup for somebody, and the assumption is that you agree with everything that the person you've done the pinup for has done, and it's kind of like maybe I do and maybe I don't. It's like I feel like modern comics has put us all in this position where we have to we're kind of expected to be litigators of things when it's just like
right.
When I came up in comics, it was just more of this is a fun comic. I'm going to draw a robot for it, and it's very different now. And I've kind of opted out. Like I'm just not playing that game anymore.
It's a good way to do it. This hinges on this topic. But there's a section in Surviving on Mars where you're talking Al Cap and Little Abner. Yeah. And,
sure.
And you say, Al Cap wasn't the best guy in the world, but goddamn could he draw. Like the man was an amazing draftsman and a sequential stylist as well. Like designer, everything Cap touched, I thought was a cut above, and then you get the Frazetta connection. But the thing that surprised me about that, and I conduct myself far different than my other two buddies here because I don't give a shit what an artist is like in their personal life. I don't care at all. All I focus on is the work because when I was coming up, we didn't have any kind of access into the personal lives of these people. We had fanzines, but someone's not going to come out, do an interview where he's throwing, racial epithets around or just, they played the game back then. So the way that social media has uncovered the personal lives of these people, I kind of don't I'm almost hesitant to follow an artist I really like because what if they turn out to be a douchebag?
Yeah, never meet your heroes, right?
Right. So I'm reluctant to even, wade into social media because I like a lot of art made by controversial people.
Yeah,
That's for
certainly.
sure. Yes, you do.
I do.
Yeah, there's a tendency on social media, like, because when I was on Twitter, I felt like it was horrible for me. Like, it kind of rewards bad behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, so you say something spicy and people be like, yeah, great work. And you're like, okay, I'm going to do more of that. And it's just so unhealthy to have that. And it's also, I mean, it might be a weird decision on my part too, but like, even oftentimes things are like just political or whatever. I'm trying on social media to pull back a little bit and be like, people follow me for my art, and because art that I'm excited by, I'm going to try to stick in that lane.
Right. That's very wise, because I always find it really dumb when a creative individual who makes money off, their artwork goes onto social media and takes a political stance either way, or a controversial social stance. And like, I always want to reply to them like, you're losing money.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's nice when people support people. I think that doing it in a positive way can be good. So I guess there's a fine line too, because it's always good to be like, to ideally have like, to say nice things about your readers and to put out positive things and be like, hey, everyone, here's a cat foundation. You can donate money if you want to.
Oh, right. That kind of stuff is great, but
not that I do that. But,
look at what happened to a whole bunch of artists who started, wearing red hats. Like, they all just lost a whole bunch of money, and it's just like, is your stance on whatever worth that much to you that you're willing to risk a loss of revenue? Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me.
And I feel like, unfortunately, it hurts the people doing that really badly too. Like, it's like my frustration with a lot of comic book pundit people isn't necessarily that I disagree with them dramatically politically, because luckily they draw comics and are not politicians or setting policy. But it seems to damage people's ability to just enjoy the work for the work, and a lot of people seem to do less work because they're now YouTubers that don't draw as much.
Exactly, right. And I tell my students that that they, whenever they create whatever, and they'll explain it to me, and I always tell them, you're not going to be over the shoulder on every viewer that looks at your art, whispering into their ears what the piece is about. Right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so, once you create something, it's out of your hands. It has a life of its own, removed from you. So that's how I like to consume my art. Like, I don't want to know anything about most creators. Like, yes, the old guys, I want to know. I want to know what what it was like in the industry when they were making it, what kind of conditions were there in the workplace. Like, that stuff is important. But now,
right, Kirby cut the crust off of the sandwiches she made people. And I remember.
I heard a good one the other day. I was reading an EC fanzine, and Al Feldstein and Bill Gaines said that Marie Severin was the conscience of EC Comics, because whenever she encountered a panel that was either too violent or too grotesque, she would color it in one color.
Oh, interesting.
That's amazing. Like, the little nuggets like that, like, I live for that kind of stuff. But to know what political affiliation, Joe Blow, I really don't care. I don't. I can't.
Point of view, it seems like you almost want to save that stuff for the work. Like, if you're really passionate feelings, like, sometimes I have ideas where I don't share them with people because I feel like now I've expressed that idea and it won't show up in a comic book. So I almost want to hold on to these things.
Very smart. Yep.
And sometimes I want to read comics by people who have really weird worldviews. Like if there was a really well drawn flat earther comic, I would immediately track it down.
Or Matt Howarth.
We won't get any more Hollow Earth comics from Neil.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He was passionate about that, man.
He sure was.
Yeah.
There is a really good Paul Chadwick Hollow Earth comic. If you guys have read that,
what, really?
Yeah, The World Below.
Yeah,
it's great.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh okay. Huh.
It's wonderful. Yeah, Chadwick doesn't do shit. Yeah.
No, for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I started a list, kind of as an aside. I started a list of all of my favorite. I tried to. Someone on Instagram just did a list of their 100 favorite cartoonists, And I was thinking, like, what are my 100 favorite? And I started just making a list of who do I pay attention to, because there's so many guys that you'll be like, oh, I love this guy's work, but then they're still out there producing work and you haven't seen. And so, like, just thinking about, like, Paul Chadwick, he's a guy that, like, I want to Google and find out what he's up to these days, because I haven't seen a book from him in a while.
Do you actually have a list, like a typed out list of your 100?
Yeah. I have a physical list, and a friend of mine really wanted to do a podcast about it. And I was like, the only way I could do it was to make sure that it was a thing, because I left off a lot of really important people just because, there's guys that change the face of comics, but I haven't read that much of their stuff yet,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, Surviving on Mars paints a really surprising picture of you. You seem to be a lot more sensitive than I perceived.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we're all I feel like comic book people are all kind of indoor kids. In a certain sense. And
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. I mean, I certainly had, like, last time we talked was probably, I was more in my bravado era of being like, kind of, I was kind of presenting myself as more of like a graffiti writer in comics, that was, we couldn't hurt my feelings. And now I'm like, oh, comics hurt my feelings pretty bad. Let's chill out. And there's something I think a lot about where it's like, if you act, kind of a simple version of it is if you take a 16-year-old's clothes and you put it on a 50-year-old man, they look homeless. And on, like, an emotional level, if you act the same way you did at all points in your life, then you kind of look like, you don't want to come off the way that you did at 25 at 50. I think it kind of makes you look like emotionally homeless.
That's amazing.
I say this all the time. I mean, I say the 25-year-old me thought I knew everything, and I look back on that 25-year-old me and realize I was an idiot that didn't know anything. That's the beauty of getting old. But you can't go back and tell your younger self what an imbecile you're being at the time.
Yeah, I'm hoping that 70-year-old me thinks that about me now.
There you go.
I haven't matured past 12.
It's a good age. You picked a good one.
Yeah, my body has aged, but my brain is still 12 years old.
That's true.
You guys can vouch for that. Yeah, no,
that
it's
is true.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And
you act like an adult really well.
I'm very comfortable being 12. Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
That's probably
so Brandon,
one of the reasons
like,
why go ahead.
Sorry. What so the diary comics, I mean, is this something that you do pretty much like daily or most days, like that you've been keeping diary, and how far back does that go?
I mean, when I started, I think I started doing it more regularly, because I'd kind of done it off and on, and then in 2018 I had this idea that I was going to do a year of daily comics, and I think I did it for a month or two, and then it got derailed, and then after that I kind of did it sporadically. And maybe one of the reasons that Surviving on Mars feels what it did is a lot of times when I was having like an emotional tumultuous moment, I would do a diary comic to help process it. But weirdly, I mean, something that my partner Casey says in the foreword is she's talking about how a lot of the big dramatic events in my life I didn't document in the diary comic. I think probably because they didn't need like processing in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a weird mix of like me dealing with like a lot of slower dramatic moments in my life. I mean, there's fun stuff in there too. There's me working on porn movie sets and just thinking about comic paneling and things like that.
Couch scene, trying to light box on the couch, and you had to move the strap on.
Oh yeah. I should.
I love that. That's the best.
That was awesome.
I'd be like,
Dude,
that
was just ridiculous. Sorry,
no, you seriously have the best life ever. I mean, because I'm reading this thing and it's just like, working on porn
There's
stuff.
live the life that you want to live.
Yeah. And I got to say, Casey, cute as a button.
Oh yeah.
I certainly agree.
Did she? I don't want to say you needed saving, but was she the missing component that made your life something better?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think when we met, I was in a very different place than I am now, and I was kind of in a low spot, and I was trying to figure out what to do with my life and my career, and kind of just kind of floating for a little while. And it really helped it's like I was kind of kind of really low place, and when I met her, she was working as a defense attorney. We're in Portland, Oregon, and she was basically working the drug courts there, and dealing with people with like real problems, and that really was a big wake up call for me. And then when she quit that job and we moved to Vegas together, just kind of us figuring out where to go next and doing things is really like not just for my life, because she's been a huge boon on that, but even just for my work, like dealing with someone who went to law school when I have this comic book artist life, and her just kind of nudging me a little bit and being like, I 9 to 5 it now, and I'm probably like 3 times more productive than I was before I met her. So that's good.
Well, I mean, your feelings for her are apparent without you even saying anything, because you paint a very unflattering picture of yourself within the comics, like this little, trollish, nebbish, kind of hunched over, squinty creature. Yeah, and then whenever she enters a panel, it's like the panels are brighter, and she takes they're bigger, and it's so you could tell right off the bat that you have like very deep feelings for this woman.
Oh yeah, certainly. I also have a problem where I don't know how other people don't put their personal life and everything on the page all the time, and so I always like. Although I mean, it happens sometimes. Do you guys remember the comic Poison Elves?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
As I'm talking to you, I have a signed Poison Elves print above my desk here next to my photograph of Wendy Penny dressed as Redstone. Yeah.
Rest in peace, Drew.
Yeah. But I remember one of the great joys of reading Poison Elves is he would kind of chronicle his life in the starting note introductions to every issue.
Yep.
And I remember at a certain point he was always talk about his different relationships, and then he'd have to announce his breakups in them, which is no fun. And at a certain point he wrote that he's like, all right, I'm not talking about my relationships in here anymore, because it's just too awkward if people know the girlfriend, and then I have to like publicly explain that we broke up afterwards. And I thought that was interesting, because I kind of have never reached that other point, because I always talk about the people that I've dated and everything in my work. And I think it's a positive, like, because it's not like every person I've got on a date shows up in a comic, but when somebody's important in my life, but they come into it, and Casey's certainly that to me.
Yeah.
I love that you had her write the intro, because hearing, when she talks about the, in some of the things that you diary, that her memories of it are different, right? Like, sometimes materially so, and I think about that a lot. Like, I think about that all the time, that you can have a conversation with someone, and then you both could tell each other what you just talked about, and it will be different. They'll hear different words. You will be sure you said words in a certain way in sequence when with meeting, and the other person can hear a completely different set of words, especially as time goes on. Your memories change. It's remarkable how many times, because I've been with my wife for nearly 30 years, and so often I will say something definitive, like, oh, we went here and did this, and she'll look at me and say, that's not what we did. She's like, we didn't go there that year. And I'll just be like, in my mind, convinced that I was right. And I appreciate that Casey kind of set that up, because having that in the forward, as I was reading through the book, getting to the scenes that she mentions, I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because like, what was she seeing in this moment as Brandon was illustrating? Like, how would she have illustrated it, in her mind, if we could see it? I wish we could kind of see her juxtaposition of those moments. Yeah,
certainly. I've often thought about it would be really interesting to have diary comics drawn out. I had an idea for a book that I don't think it'll ever happen, that I thought would be fun. Where I wanted to get a group of cartoonists all rent out a house together, and draw a murder mystery where one of the cartoonists in there is killed, and everyone else draws a chapter of it being investigated, and just to show how different artists would show things around them. Not that that's a real event, but it just reminded me of that.
That would be fantastic.
But I mean, that kind of, because me and Casey had talked a lot about that idea before I did the book, and I feel like that was kind of a guiding light, because I wasn't trying to document anything like I'm Joe Sacco, it's more just like the emotional documentation of, this is how I feel about this thing.
And so, I guess, so So like I guess maybe I was wrong. I was thinking as I was reading this that like you had kind of diaries that you sketched in, and that these images, like you may have taken raw sketches of your diary and then like drawn pages for this book. But are you basically saying that like when you do diary stuff, like you pretty much do full on Brandon Graham drawing of your diary stuff? Is that how you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, that's really messy pages, but hopefully they look cleaned up enough. And then there's a lot of stuff that I cut out of the book because, things get really repetitive when you're doing stuff pretty regularly. And there's some stuff that was just like I wanted to talk about kind of the emotional, like you mentioned the, like having emails where had a falling out with people and I'm emailing them back and talking about it. Like that was like a diary comic that went on for, like I did a bunch of follow-up diary comics to that, but it just didn't, I kind of felt like it was just like I didn't want to throw any people under the bus, kind of.
That makes sense.
It was like interacting with a bunch of other, like it was other professional cartoonists and me kind of trying to work out how I felt about the interactions in diary comics, and then I was like, I don't need to publish this afterwards,
And I'd imagine that some of the COVID stuff would also get repetitive.
Although I had a very. I didn't have an unpleasant COVID thing because it was just I just worked through it. I was working on my book Rain Like Hammers then, and just kind of stayed indoors more than usual and do my comics.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
one of the things that made me kind of giggle was the Jenny Agutter Logan's Run panel.
Oh yeah.
Because I saw that in the movie theater when it came out. That's how old I am. And like that scene when she's all wet and she takes the toga off and puts on the the furry whatever the hell it was. Like I swear that shot me right into puberty. And that movie's very special to me because of that. Like she's a beautiful woman, and just to see Jenny Agutter in your comic like that, how it's crazy how past and present intersects in ways that you don't see coming. Like when did I would never expect a comic by Brandon Graham would contain a page on Logan's Run. It just
sure. I mean, right. It's the freedom of like that's a nice thing about doing a diary book is there are just things in there that are just like, I think there's panels where I'm just like, this is what like a silencer on the end of someone's penis would look like.
Yeah.
He shoots it off.
Similar to the. I was just going to say the to Vince's point, it was similar to the whole when you went shopping and you came home with a random issue of Amazing Heroes, which is a run that I'm still trying to complete, and then of all the things from that issue is a studio photo from the folks making Area 88, which is a comic that I remember picking up off the stands. And actually, there was a manga I read last year which felt very similar to that. And when I mentioned it on Twitter, the author had never even heard of it and was going to go and track it down. So I was happy that I could bring.
Has never heard of Area 88?
Did not hear.
Crazy.
No, they're a young creator. But so I get it.
Sense.
But no, and when would you do your diary at the end of the day? Would you carve it out? Would you do it the next day, recalling the events from the day before? Because I know we've had conversations with some artists that because I'm not thinking of this as a warm up,
sure.
But we have some artist friends who wake up in the morning, do their warm ups, and then this way then they hit the ground running so they can work on what's making them money. We know one artist in particular who refuses to do warm ups and figures he's just going to go in cold and just work on those pages for the day. But how did you? What was your frame of mind when did you just think I got to do a diary, or were there?
A lot of it was. I mean, a lot of it was. Sometimes they were just because I do keep sketchbooks and I use them. Warm up drawings are an interesting thing because I do a lot of drawings, but my excuse is like these will go in sketchbooks, so these will be on like my Patreon or something. Because I think on some levels, drawing comics almost feels like a different part of my brain than doing sketching. Just because there's a purpose when you're telling a story, where when you sketch, and my sketchbooks get like, they're basically like, ridiculousness verging on pornography back to ridiculousness. And so it's like, there's a freedom in there that I think would make the comics less, the diary book, I allow for more of that, but if I'm doing Moonray and then suddenly I'm just like, here's a picture of Charlie Brown with a machine gun, it's going to seem really out of place and weird. But yeah, I guess it kind of go back to the question. A lot of it was just like kind of have breaks things, because also most of my work life is just doing like longer form narratives, and so it's nice just like to be like, oh, I'm in the middle of this page and I have this complicated cityscape to draw. Let me take a break and just draw a thing about what happened yesterday. And so it's like kind of drawing as entertainment, which is something that really keeps me sane. Like, I like TVs and movies and reading other comics. Actually reading comics is the thing that makes me like I feel like I can't read a stack of good comics and not immediately want to go and make comics. It's really like, what's the word? It's inspiring, kind of gets me going.
Yeah. Contagious in a way. Yeah.
Yep. Contagious. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. We've been dancing around it, all of this interview, but can we talk about how quickly Living the Line is becoming a powerhouse publisher?
Yeah, it's crazy. We were just talking about that. That was a couple episodes ago.
I've been really... Sorry, what were you saying?
No, it's amazing how everything they put out, both volumes of Moonray came out from Living the Line, as is Surviving on Mars, but her Frankenstein is just one of the most ridiculously bizarre and awesome manga I've ever read. Right, and then the thing with the mushrooms. What's the next book they have coming?
UFO Mushroom. I think
UFO Mushroom. Like
Mushroom Invasion. Yeah.
It looks amazing, and everything they have slated for the rest of the year that we've been privy to looks like outstanding. And it's like, where did these guys come from?
Good question. Yeah. So, so Living the Line it's basically Sean Michael Robinson is the publisher and production guy on it and everything, and he works a lot with Carson Grubaugh, who was the kind of guy who finished Strange Death of Alex Raymond when Dave Sim kind of hit a snag on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the project that started it. Because my understanding is that Sean was working. Carson's a art school teacher, is his day job, and Sean does comic book production. He's been doing that stuff for a long time. I think, if I remember right, me and Sean met because he interviewed me for something years ago, with like a Tokyo Pop King City interview or something. But so he's been in comics. They're both around our age as well, and they're just guys that have been in comics and are both fantastic cartoonists that kind of, because of Strange Death of Alex Raymond, decided to start this publishing company, and have just been kind of just knocking out of the park ever since. Like, it's been really exciting to me because I still, like I have a good relationship with Image, and I hope to do more books with them. But it's really a different feeling to be involved with a new publisher where everything, where I'm excited about everything they're doing. It's just like it's really hard. Like larger publishers, it's just you just don't expect to read everything they do and to like everything. But I think because of the kind of higher quality production on all of the Living Line books, they've really focused on just making getting the coolest books they can.
Right. Well, they've ascended to the point in my buying habits where I'll get to their area of the previews and I order everything. I don't even question it. I don't even read the solicits. I'm like, okay, bing, 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 just order it because I know.
Any publishers that hold that place for you?
What was that?
Are there any other publishers that hold that place for you?
That I order everything from? No. No.
Like I really like Self-Made Hero does really cool stuff, and then but I don't get everything. And also, I really like Cinebook, the European translator.
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah,
but I don't get it. Their books always seem a little pricey to me always, so I pick and choose a little bit more. You were saying?
The last publisher that I would order everything right across the board was Picture Box.
Yeah.
Oh, certainly. I think my book was the last Picture Box book.
Yep. Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, they did great stuff.
Yeah, amazing stuff.
Yeah,
I was going to say. I was thinking about the question. I mean, I think Magnetic for me. I buy everything Magnetic does.
I haven't read too many Magnetic books. I feel like comics are in this really interesting place right now. I've been reading every previews that comes out, and I have theories right now that I feel like the larger publishers are really playing it safe in a lot of ways, and still, there's a lot of good books coming out from them still, but I feel like there's this excitement in the really small press stuff that I keep seeing more weird and interesting books. Like I started out at Antarctic Press, the Ninja High School publisher, and they're really confusing because sometimes they'll do books I have absolutely no interest in, and then sometimes I just went to the comic store yesterday and I made sure that I ordered. They're doing a reprint of an old Spanish comic of Your Hunter from the Future.
Yep,
which
saw
I knew
that.
Yeah, it's like a weird B movie that. Back when I was working on Prophet, whenever anyone would message me about working on, like, we want to talk about a Prophet movie, I'd always send them the trailer for Your Hunter from the Future. I'd be like, this already exists.
Interesting. Yeah, I see it now. Yeah. Well, Prophet was amazing, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Any chance of a 1-volume collected edition hardcover of all of Prophet?
I am working on that right now, actually. My plan is to... I'm going to go see Dan Panosian for lunch in a week or so.
Nice.
He's the original artist on Prophet. And my hope is that he can, because he works more with Liefeld than I do these days, and my hope is that the two of us together can convince him to let us do it.
Awesome. I hope it comes true. Hope it comes to fruition.
Come on, Rob. Do the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm always fighting the idea of hitting him up and being like, let me do a run on Youngblood.
Oh, that would be so good.
I doubt it'll happen, but it's if it was offered to me, it would be hard to turn down.
Well, if Michel Fife can get a
Fife
run on
his thing,
yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
He could have a whole Indie Strange Tales type spin-offs with his creations with various other artists
that were far better than the originals.
Yes. It's qualified.
You gotta say it, yeah, because it's true. Yeah,
I don't think, and I think a lot of the stuff he might not own a lot of it now, but I think Youngblood he still does. Oh, and certainly Prophet.
Rob was fairly mercenary with his art. He put most of it out there into the world for consumption.
Certainly.
Yeah. One of the things that constantly amazes me about your let's call it visual voice is that I think you achieve so much with so little. You don't tend to noodle or just over render a scene. It's a very I don't want to call it thin, but it's almost a fixed width line, and you don't the line never overstays its welcome, but the concepts that you're able to pull off with seemingly as minimal lines as possible just amazes me every time I see it.
Oh, thanks. I've been trying to lean more in that direction. The great John Arcudi gave me a box of Alex Toth books recently, and I've been just Toth's not a guy that I was really in my wheelhouse as much, and I'm just amazed by digging into his work more.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the greats. And it's in one of the I think it's a page in the Diary comics when you're actually leaning into the panel borders, where you're trying to get a sense of depth and you actually immerse yourself into the panel. Right. Yeah, it's a great sequence. It's great.
Because there's the idea of essentially both as readers and artists, you're all buying into this lie that you're not just staring at a flat piece of paper and there's some depth behind it. Yeah. And so it's interesting to think about kind of what we the lies we tell ourselves to make a story work, and even because if I'm drawing a perspective drawing and I'm drawing grass in the foreground, I'm like, oh, that's right here. And then I'll, on the same plane, I'm like, and way in the distance are pyramids, but it's not in the distance. And I think that's a really fun mental trick.
Yeah. Have you ever considered maybe a Rayzone 3D treatment to a book where we actually get the red and blue glasses and
oh, interesting.
That'd be really cool. Because, your work lends itself to that kind of treatment. There's a lot of space in your panels. And I think a traditional 3D approach would be great for your stuff.
That'd be fascinating. I do have an old Ninja High School 3D comic here next to me.
It's also kind of funny how you brought up Antarctic, because I have spent more than my share of money at Antarctic. I actually love Gold Digger. It's one of those books that, 6 people read. And I just think it's an amazing run. I don't like everything Antarctic does. Like, I was a diehard Ninja High School fan for a lot of years, Ben Dunn and stuff like that. But I think they're a little scattershot these days. They're all over the map on quality wise. But there was a time when, like, Antarctic and Sirius, like, I thought they were putting out a slew of really great books.
Oh yeah, both those publishers are great. Yeah, my big Antarctic book is Twilight X is the.
Oh right, yeah.
That I go back and read a lot. They have a bunch of great stuff. Kind of back to the idea of almost like gimmicky things, like the 3D things. One of the books I'm working on right now is the thing I'm actually doing. It's called Homunculus Dynasty, and it's this. It's basically like a far future version of what all the kind of Universal monsters would be like if they were, in like the Prophet era. And so you have this kingdom of all kind of Frankenstein people that grow their children and then grow organs for them and everything, and vampires in space and like Hollow Earth full of werewolves and things like that. But I'm doing this trick with it where we're doing the whole book, printing it really big, almost like a record. And the whole book's going to be in black and white, except for the final chapter we're going to print in color. And my hope is that it's kind of hits in an interesting way because of that.
I have 2 questions: when and where?
That's what I'm doing with Living the Line, and
nice.
My plan. We're kicking around the idea of having it ready around San Diego next year, but I don't know if we're actually going or if that's kind of my idea for it. It's going to be. It's only like a 60-page book, and I'm already getting close to 20 pages on it. I'm drawing it really big, these like giant Paul Pope size Jack Kirby pages. So it's slowing me down a little bit, but I'm kind of doing it a bit.
Yeah, I'm down for it. Yep. Holy hell, that sounds great.
I'm always working on like 4 projects at once. So that's another thing kind of what the diary thing works into is it helps me to kind of have projects to juggle. And I think it's almost like this idea of like I'm working on a comic and sometimes your mind will wander. And in the past I'd be like, oh, I want to go, watch a movie or play a video game. But it's like almost training myself to be like, I'm working on this comic, but I can't wait to get this page done so I can work on this other comic.
Well, how do you juggle that many projects? Like it's I'm guessing that it's a different mindset with every project. So to seg into, mindset A and then the next day work on project B, which requires a different, how do you accomplish that?
A lot of it's really structuring things out. Like, sometimes I'll literally just like set an alarm and be like, I'm working on this page for 1 hour. And then when the alarm goes off, I'm going to switch to another project and work on that for an hour. But that's kind of the ideal. The reality is the deadlines kind of run things too.
Right. Well, let's talk about Moonray for a little bit, if you don't mind. I think the premise is very simple. That you have this goddess Iltar who creates an organism out of Mium and eventually becomes Adam, in hopes that he will either save or avenge her. Like, that's the premise. That's cool. It's tight. It's easy to digest, but both volumes are anything but. where it's almost like I really appreciate the fact that there's, all right, you have the big bad in the hive that's assimilating all of these creatures, and they must be stopped, they must be eradicated. But there's not a huge sense of urgency in the book, because Adam goes from point A to point B, and like, oh, this will give me a chance to hone my skills. And he stays in this one place for a while, and the narrative spirals in a certain direction, and then something will happen, and he has to go to this other location where something else impacts him. But you never get the sense that, holy shit, the hive is destroying everything. They need to be stopped right now. Like the pacing on the book is very odd because it just seems, in an organic sense, it seems to just, the story just seems to progress logically and organically to the next step, but there's never a like, oh my God, I got to get this person in this place. Let's hurry this up here. Like it just unfolds at a very, I don't want to say leisurely, but it's not
leisurely. I don't think that. It's
okay.
Yeah, because a lot of that is, I mean, I hit this with my book Rain Like Hammers. I hit this this love of this Japanese genre called a yashike, which is called healing manga, which is basically like not stressful comics, which is strange because because Moonray at its core, it is this like there's wars going on, and
it's like a hero's journey.
Yeah, it's a hero's journey. But I'm almost trying to do it in this slow paced thing where I'm like I'll write down notes to kind of remind myself to kind of keep things tactile, because there's a feeling that I always try to avoid in comics where it almost feels like suddenly things start to feel like a dream and things aren't real anymore. And I think the way that you avoid just kind of things going off the rails is you keep the character in the moment and you have them experience what things smell like and what things feel like and like the temperature of the room they're in and like what's, what does the ground feel like and all this stuff. And for me, it's like one of the kind of the reasons for I'm doing Moonray is it's for a video game company to flesh out their video game world. And the video game is like a player versus player kind of Alien Street Fighter style game. And so for me, it's like I get to explore like what's over the horizon and what these characters in this weird alien world, what it would feel like once humanity's gone and there's just these kind of clay Miam people left over, kind of on alien planets trying to figure out why they're around.
See, that's crazy to me because not knowing, I mean, I know about the Moonray game, but I didn't actually see it or play it. But I would think that it would be based on what I experienced within the 2 volumes of Moonray. I would think it would be this open world, do whatever you want, explore, like No Man's Sky, something like that, where you. I think
the goal is to get there eventually, but right now they're kind of starting it as a fighting game because that's kind of an easier
right,
an easier thing to build. And something I should mention too is Shersho, who's drawing the backup comic that I write in the books. He's the art director for the video game. So it does have a big.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, Shersho's crazy. You probably don't know this, but he donated. He did one of our album art that we used for an entire more than 1 year, right?
More than
he was the face of 11 O'Clock Comics for like a long time, and I thought his work back then was incredible. But seeing his work in here, holy Moses! Like. There's just lines everywhere.
And he's an impressive artist. He's definitely like he's one of the few guys that's kind of like I think is like going the Jeff Darrow path.
It's really insane. And he's making me care about this creature, this mount, because the rider, okay, yeah, I want him to survive, but if anything happens to the mount, I'm done. He's going to get hate mail.
Right. It's the mucks.
The mucks, yes, the mucks.
Yeah, I'm lettering the 3rd and 4th chapter of that right now.
How did you guys meet?
I think he just reached out to me when I was working on Prophet because he was, he's a Spanish guy who was really into science fiction and Mobius and all the heavy metal stuff and everything. And I think we were just on DeviantArt or something, and he reached out to me, and his work blew me away. And then he did a backup in Prophet. I remember it was an issue where, I hope I'm remembering everyone's name correctly. Dave Taylor, who did Tongue Lash, drew an issue.
Right. And
Dave Taylor was actually like a friend of Mobius, and it was soon after Mobius had died, and so we did this almost like a Mobius tribute issue where Dave Taylor did the main story and then Shersho did the backup, and it was like, there's a kind of, it's interesting because there's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of negativity associated with people kind of riffing off of like kind of basing their art style off of other people's styles. But I think there's something about Mobius's work that almost like invites you to like draw a little more like him.
Right.
And then he has so many. Like the other day, I had a conversation with some friends. We were talking about like a bunch of people draw like Miyazaki, but I can't. And I might be totally wrong. I was like, I can't name any kind of Miyazaki kids that are kind of of the level that they're doing work that I think is like my favorite work out there. Where Mobius, there's guys that I think draw better than Mobius in Mobius style, but they're just kind of taking a different direction. Like like Sylvain Dupree, is a really fantastic kind of Mobius style artist, and certainly Darrow. So that was interesting to kind of come together with other people that were kind of the same religion almost, and do a project together.
Right.
So and then after that, me and Shershow, like I feel really lucky in that he's always inviting me to be involved with him. Because I still have a little bit of the like comic book writers are guilty until proven innocent almost in my head, and there's writers I'm huge fans of, but there's like I'm always like someone like there's this new comic writer, you have to try out their stuff, and I'm almost like a kid trying asparagus for the first time every time I read a comic.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the fact that you've taught me how to correctly pronunciate his name, because I've been calling him Zerzo, but Shershow's thank you. But I agree with you about the adopting another artist's style, except I think when you ascend that ladder of potency, let's say, and you get to the top where it's Mobius and Kirby, I think their styles are so primal and overpowering, and just I don't think it's a bad thing to be heavily influenced by those two.
Sure.
I think it's a natural thing, because those two guys, I think, are the driving force of comics, was Kirby and Mobius, and then I would say Corbin after that, but people won't agree with me on the third one. But
Corbin doesn't have many kids. He doesn't
because it's so difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good point too. Actually, Den was something that I was really trying to channel with a lot of Moonray, even though Den does have that sense of urgency.
Yes, it does. But
we're getting two more volumes of this, Brandon, right?
Yeah, I've actually just started volume 4, so I'm on the final. And I'm also I'm working with some other artists to do some separate stories set in Moonray. We're going to be kind of collaborating with them as kind of separate books. And a lot of it, I'm trying to find excuses to work more with like my Prophet collaborators too. So I'm hoping to rope Farrell into it specifically.
Oh, nice. Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, he's such a fantastic. And working with Farrell is just like Shershow and Farrell are probably my two favorite people. Obviously Simon Roy, but he's such a good writer. I mean, they're all great writers, but Simon's always on his own projects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing the group that you I'm guessing handpicked for Prophet. You look back on that work. I'm convinced that Prophet is one of the greatest things to ever come out of Image.
Oh, well, thanks. I mean, I shouldn't agree with you, but I had a good time.
No, you should. I mean, take credit. I think it's a wonderful saga. It's so far reaching, and just the scope of the thing is ridiculous. That there was books on the sidelines, like Glory came out around the same time, where they took a different spin on that character. It was just a really unique, really vibrant time at Image. That I think even Rob took another stab at Evangeline. Yeah. It was just
really exciting time in comics. I feel like comics have been trying to almost get back to that time in recent years.
Yeah, it was great. Do it again.
Yeah, hopefully. I do feel like comics are kind of coming out of a little bit of a dark age and getting into a more exciting. I don't know if you guys feel that way.
No, I see it as comics suck right now, but they're awesome. Like,
well, it depends on where they're coming from.
That's what I'm saying. I think the mainstream
the big two stuff can be kind of stale and stagnant.
They're boring. They're boring,
right.
and
but when you have things like from Living Line and
Right.
Magnetic.
That's
and,
where the awesome comes in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's when you're excited to be a comic fan again.
It's almost like they don't see their output. Like there's not someone in the big two that's looking at everything coming out saying, this stuff is really boring.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why are we doing this?
I feel like their motivations are so different from mine that I'm almost don't. It's hard for me to judge because I don't know. And there's also the weird thing where superheroes are kind of like the real things, the movies now. So it seems like a weird thing.
Yeah.
Like if you're drawing the Iron Man comic, it's like you're not Robert Downey Jr. You know, like people don't take it as seriously.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that they're also figuring that where the everyday fan's going to go. Like they kind of have them by the short hairs. So we're also going to go to read this book. So they don't really have to try to. The Hickman days with Krakoa are in the past. So we can kind of like whatever we just want to throw at him, and they'll still just lap it up.
Hopefully, they can read something from another publisher.
Maybe, yes.
Something.
I
don't want to shit on mainstream comics because there's a lot of people enjoy them. It's just now they seem like they're just treading water, just waiting.
But I think the other side of that coin is the key one, right? Which is that we're in an environment that maybe I would argue more than ever, it's totally viable to put out really interesting stuff and do it economically, right? Like because there's just like I think that enough of our core comic book, lifers, enough of us have, learned enough about the alternative distribution that it's now totally viable, right? Like you can crowdfund, you can Kickstart, you can do, online subscription. Like there's a lot more confidence in the ability to launch something like that, and then to know that you can deliver on it, and that's what's super cool is that if this was 15 years ago and like the mainstream was as boring and uninspiring, or at least if we felt it was, as we do now, I think it would have still felt pretty isolated because there weren't the litany of different publishers putting out really interesting things that we have now. Like I don't think we've ever had as much breadth. At least since we've been doing this podcast out there.
Yeah.
So I love that.
And something I've been leaning into a lot more is I feel like comics really succeed when you get something from them you can't get anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird because, comic shops I'm a big fan of, and they kind of need the Marvel and DC stuff to come out.
Sure.
Right.
Although I should qualify, I don't read that stuff, so I don't really know. Like, if I read everything that Marvel and DC came out with, I'd probably have, like, a couple favorites. But even guys like yesterday at the comic shop, I got the new Ram V Rare Flavors book, and he's a writer.
Oh yeah.
And I know he does Marvel and DC books, I just don't read them, because I'm always like, well, he's got enough personal books that look cool, I'll pick those up. And maybe they're great, and maybe I'll pick them up in quarter bins and, in 10 years, But yeah, I'm almost like, I feel like I've got more superhero burnout than most.
Yeah.
And it's not out of anger, it's just out of like those are for different people.
Yeah.
And that's okay, right? I mean,
it made us fans, so we can't. Obviously, we're not going to badmouth them too much, but yeah, that's the reason why we're here. But yes, we matured and grew up and have experienced other things and look for new and exciting, different things, and they've kind of stayed the same.
I think it's okay to stay the same because
absolutely,
they just have different motivations. There's a different reason. Their reason for their existence is just different, right?
Right. There's people that have been listening to AC/DC for like 40 fucking years, and that's okay. If that's your thing and that's what gets you pumped, then more power to you. But
I did AC/DC.
Yeah, I need something different, man. I need something strange. I need her Frankenstein, and I need the weird stuff.
We've talked about that a lot. Like, to me, I'll get in these ruts where I'm like, man, there's just nothing and then I'll, but I feel like I don't get those anymore because there's always books that are out there to be surprised by. It doesn't mean every time you buy one and you open it up and you read it, sometimes it's not what you'd hope. Maybe it's not all that surprising but I just think it's very, not a lot of time goes by where I don't open up something, read it, and put it down and say, "Now that was interesting." That's something I haven't seen in a long while or ever before, and that to me, to me, the industry is like in a fantastic place right now because of that.
That's good. I struggle with monthlies. I find less stuff I'm interested in these days than in like collective stuff. And it might be just how crowdfunding works, or kind of what the risks people take are.
Or training your brain. I mean, I think it's Pavlovian. I mean, I spent 20 plus years of my fandom basically living by the 22-page pamphlet, right? Like, and that was like the only way I wanted to read comics. And now I really would be happy to get rid of every long box I have like instantly if I could, because I prefer to consume comics in other forms. Right. So it's just like the evolution of it too, right? Like, but I mean, certainly for me, if we do a year-end awards thing where we kind of talk about like our favorites of different categories, and I always said if we changed the show and we just did our 10 favorite comics in any format that we like that year, I mean, almost every one of my list always would be OGNs or nice collected editions of stuff. So that's just my vibe for sure.
Didn't Rain Like Hammers win our favorite miniseries for the year it came out?
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Thanks. I should have been paying more attention.
That's all right. You're creating.
Yeah. The award got lost in the mail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. It's a no prize.
I just want to bring it back. I want to bring it back to Surviving on Mars for a second. And there's an awesome page in which you feature Miles Davis. So beeline right to my heart. And specifically, Miles not wanting to revisit his old work. Like, that's in the past. Yeah, that's in the past. How do you, at this point in your career, see work like King City and stuff produced maybe before then?
Warheads, yeah.
Yeah. Is there a wince factor for you, or have you made peace with the progress an artistic individual makes over the course of their lives? Like, how do you see that old work?
I mean, I look back at it really fondly. It's very different from what I do now, and part of that is that I just like I would always joke back then that I was kind of threatening to turn into like the Jeff Darrow of puns, because I was constantly like trying to cram as many jokes as possible on a page.
Yes, you loved it though.
Yeah, and I feel like I kind of hit a wall with that stuff where I was like, it started to not be as fun. I was like, I have to come up with a joke. I'm going to get really stressed out today thinking of something funny. And kind of just letting myself not worry about it and kind of let things flow more, like get a little more zen with this stuff, has really helped me just enjoy comics more. But I still really appreciate that I had that like youthful enthusiasm to cram so much stuff in it. One of the projects I'm working on right now is a thing called The Bastard Machine, which is kind of me returning to King City style comics.
Yes.
Really weird. It kind of came out. I've drawn the first issue, and I'm halfway through the second issue, and it's just kind of been sitting for a couple of years now. But the conceit of that one's I wrote specifically to come out in issues, because I was really into Tintin stuff during the pandemic, and I started to notice all these weird things about Tintin. Like, he's a journalist, but you never see him. There's one panel of him actually writing, and he's like a teenager, but you get no information. Like, he doesn't have a last name or a family. Or, at some point he goes and lives with Captain Haddock in his mansion, and no one's like, hold on, this guy's 15.
That's not weird at all.
Yeah. It's not even like the Robin backstory of like his parents died in the circus or whatever. They don't exist. And so
he's just posting up. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So I have this story where the main character wears a mask the entire time. He's being blackmailed, and you never see his face, and you never know why he's being blackmailed. But every issue, he has to perform a weird task, and he'll just be like, here's a crocodile in a briefcase. You have to drop it in the sewer somewhere, and these strangers are trying to stop him every time. And his only friend that he makes is, there's a woman who's like she's a prostitute who only sleeps with monsters. So we get a monster of the week, but it's her kind of John that she's paying her to sleep with. So the first issue is a car man. So it's just this structure, just trying to figure out like a funny structure to do over and over. And the idea, it'll be long enough when it comes out that people, but the idea is to have every issue, the tasks he does, basically set up like a Rube Goldberg machine where they kind of like dominoes that knock each other over by the sixth issue. So that one's a much weirder, jokier thing that I'm doing. that kind of allows for kind of returning to the old stuff. And I do want to get back to multiple someday, because I think that was King City for me was really important, but I also felt like I was like riffing. It was like making fun of the things I loved. For Multiple Warheads, I felt like I kind of had to create something a little more whole cloth, and so I'm reluctant to let that go. And I always want to go back and do more like Sexica and Nikolai stories.
All right. One of the projects I have my students do is create their own Rube Goldberg machine.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they get into that. Here's a question. Any chance we will get another straight up porn comic from you?
Oh, certainly, yeah. I've got some of those in the works too.
Nice.
Yes, there we go.
Lips and asses. Like, you are the best at both.
For sure, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, totally agree.
I've actually colored Pillow Fight too.
What? Oh, I own multiple copies of Pillow Fight. I think I own like 4 copies.
Oh, nice. That one was hard because I wanted to fix the anatomy a lot when I was coming back, and I gave myself I was like, you're going to fix 2 panels if they really bug you. But I went back and I colored it, and the frustration with that is I got a bunch of great pinups from people that I'm sitting on, and I feel a little guilty because I've got like a Jim Off Food and an EPHK pinup.
EPHK is perfect for that. Yeah, it's perfect.
Damn.
Yeah, and maybe I'll have to gather some more because there's some fantastic, and especially now that Penthouse is coming out again, I'd love to get like a Gilliam March Pillow Fight drawing or something.
Dude, if you can get in the pages of Penthouse, you will elevate the magazine.
Oh, yeah. I'm already in Penthouse.
What issue?
I was in 2. So I did. I think it was the 2nd or 3rd issue, maybe the 3rd issue. It's the stuff. I should qualify that I put some of the comics for Surviving on Mars about working in porn comics. I sent those to Penthouse and they reprinted them.
Oh, okay.
But I also did a cover of Sexica for Multiple Warheads. It's coming out next month.
Yeah, we all said this. It's nice that it exists, but I don't think it recaptured what made the original Penthouse comics so compelling.
It's weird. It's more like heavy metal without science fiction than Penthouse. Like
and nudity.
It's just so tame. It's so tame. I don't like that. I mean, I read the first 2 issues and so I missed yours. It's so tame. Like literally there's almost no nudity at all, much less like overt sexual.
It's just translated European comics.
Yeah. If you got to polybag something, like I want Black Kiss style debauchery in that thing.
Right.
Yeah. I wonder. I mean, that's an interesting thing because I am sitting on a bunch of porn comics no one's seen, and I wonder what it would be like if you put like a Pillow Fight style short story in the middle of that. Because there also are Penthouse in the backups. They have like naked lady photo spreads still.
Of real people.
Yeah, real humans.
Yeah, real people.
That's weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to the internet.
Comes a Fumetti book.
Yeah. Here, I'll give you this for free, Brandon. Curate your own line of seldom seen porn comics.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm working as an editor right now on a porn book with the idea that there's a comic publisher that is kind of trying their hand at doing adult comics right now, and they hit me up to say like, what are your thoughts on this? And so I reached out. There's a guy named Anta who did like the furry issue of Island.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. That was hot. I'm sorry. It was hot. Yeah.
Thanks. So he is, I don't know why I'm thanking you for his work, but yeah, I think he's really good. And he came to LA a while back and me and Casey hung out with him, and he was kind of in a place where he's like wants to get back to making comics and everything. So I'm kind of working as his editor to help him kind of return to his characters, this character Marty that he did a bunch of comics by, and I'm always pushing him like I want to see these characters grow up because it's like set in high school, and there's some weird stuff about you start to psychoanalyze porn when you're around it, and you see like when I see people that are in college right now, I'm like, look at those toddlers. So
which is kind of hot.
Yeah, nudging him to kind of age up the characters and be like, what happens when these people are in their 30s? What's going on with that? So he's working on that now, and the plan is to kind of I think comics are at a point where we can actually start, especially with your guys' reaction to Penthouse. I think that people could stand just getting actual adult comics on stands again.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
I want to see penetration. Yeah. I want to see I want to see everything.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely. I know for sure there's.
It's healthy. Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. It's like we've talked about. I mean, we love European comics so much, and that's another, right? I mean, it's just the strange puritanical, like byline that runs through our culture that like somehow has always vilified sex, even though everybody loves it and everybody looks at porn, right? Like it's like it'd be one thing if like a huge chunk of our country just legit never looked at porn and thought it was, but like it's just not true. Like the numbers suggest that like almost everyone does, right? Like whether you're guilty about it or not, you do. And it's so weird that we just can't all be like, yeah, we like sex. We like to masturbate. We like to look at porn. Like it's like all like, you know what I mean? Like it's just like it's such a strange thing where like generally commonalities are celebrated in society.
Yeah, I think something happened when kind of during the saga era, we'll say, when comics were kind of working to be more female friendly and kind of the market was growing for YA comics and for young women reading comics. I think that kind of comics maybe overcorrected and kind of got rid of all the sexiness. Like that's the thing that really stands out when I see superhero comics these days. Like you look at the Chris Claremont era X-Men and it's hard not to think like this pervert just putting his S&M fantasies in this comic sold to 10-year-olds. And now it's funny because like X-Men's read by a bunch of 30-year-olds and it's less sexy.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely time for that to return. And also it being fictional and it all just being lines on paper is something that always stands out to me as like, why not just draw the most ridiculous thing you can and the sexiest, weirdest things?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes,
you do. Oh, you're using our new soundboard.
Yes.
I love it.
Hey, that deserved a clap. Yeah.
It really did. Nicely played.
Brandon, I always say it's just lines on paper. Like when you see these super explicit Japanese hentai comics and they're like, "Oh my God, these are children having sex," and it's like, no, these are lines on paper. No child is being harmed in the production of this comic. People are working through their demons two-dimensionally. That's the way to do it. Nobody's getting hurt.
Yeah, I wonder if Japan could be rein in demons a little bit. But yeah, I'm holding in my hand right now a book called The History of Hentai Manga that I've slowly been reading.
I have that. It's great.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah.
The part on there's multiple chapters on nipple blur history.
Oh God, stop!
Pixel era, the whiteout era.
But yeah, I should mention I just went to an Asian comic show in Los Angeles, and they had a adult manga room, which was really cool to see.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I would have been all in that.
Yeah, sex is healthy. Women love sex. Men love sex. Why not? You just embrace it and just get it out there.
It's keeping humanity going.
Yeah, people need an outlet, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember.
And speaking of that, I have to say, like, I know Brandon, you're saying you still love to, like, you felt compelled to put quips into every page, and that I certainly did like that about that work back then. But you still got it, though. You still got it because, like, I fell out when you said you had the AVN flu. Like, that just cracked me. It's one of those moments where I was like, I just laughed out loud. I'm like, that's hilarious. The AVN flu.
I should qualify that's the AVN convention, which is like the porn convention, the adult video news convention. The AVN flu is I don't think I invented that. I think I just stole it, but thanks.
All right, fair enough.
I love how you embrace porn. Unabashed.
Yeah, that's the thing. I love it. That's one of the things I've always loved about your work. And we've talked about this before. Like, you just treat sex like I think the way that like we think of it. Like it's just part of life. Like it is what it is. Like there's nothing. It shouldn't be any more or less interesting like than any other part of someone's life.
And I love how people be like, oh no, I never. Yeah, bullshit. You're looking at porn. Everybody's looking at porn.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. I have how do I word this correctly? I have a bunch of friends that are kind of more conservative in comics, and I have like a lot of my friends in Las Vegas are in sex work, and so it's this funny thing where my friends will sometimes be talking about kind of like the being worried about porn influencing them and not looking at it and all these things. And for me, it's a very different animal because I'm around the people making it a lot of the times, which also like the joke that I always talk about with my friends, like I can't look up porn websites because I'll see people I know on there. It's weird, you know? So I feel like that's kind of changed my mentality a lot. It's like being around the performers is changed. Like it's, and I talked about that a little bit in Surviving on Mars, but it's kind of shifted. Like it's been really interesting to me returning to doing porn comics now. Just I'm kind of dipping my toes in it and thinking like, what at 48 after I know more about the actual sex work industry and everything is different than the stuff when I was just doing pillow fight and like just living in a tiny apartment in New York and making fun of like schoolgirl porn.
All right. Is there a little trepidation to get back into it because online folks can be very unforgiving, and it's like, he's doing it again. Like,
I mean, there's people online that are professionally mad at people,
right?
And
yeah, that's for sure.
Those guys can just scream to a well, for all I'm concerned. Because I mean, the main thing is I think my main motivator is I want it to be good and I want it to be fun and I want the people that are there to buy it to be like, oh my god, I can't believe that this is in a comic,
Right.
Like I read a Robert Crumb comic the other day that it shocked me. I felt like somebody's grandmother telling me a book, being like, "Oh my word!"
Yeah, the shit he used to get away with is like unbelievable. Yeah,
and some of it was like a little too much for me. And this is one I think he did like a blackface joke by someone being covered in feces, and I was just like, "That is a lot to deal with."
Yeah, it's a
first thing in the morning with your coffee.
It's another guy that got lambasted by the online community. When everybody got. I felt kind of bad for him because, I mean, yes, it is foul and degenerate, but on the other hand, I think there's an innocence to what Crumb does, where he's just putting himself out there.
Yeah, and there's a bit of kind of working out things on paper. It's interesting. Did you guys read the Joe Matt Peep Show book that came out?
Not the recent one, but most of them.
That one is fascinating because it was he's very honest. I almost. Not to speak ill of the dead or anything, but I almost felt like the thing you would want the least to be put out is your final statement on things.
Right.
Because a lot of it is this very like him like kind of struggling with like, is it appropriate to be sexually into what I'm into? And so like I'm so lazy, and then he puts it out, and it doesn't come out until he's gone
and he's dead. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I think in that era there was this kind of this want to be like warts and all. Here I am as a person.
Right.
And I do think a return to that is good. I think more of that type of comics. I did a signing in Mission Comics in San Francisco a couple weeks ago, and I met a ton of like people in their really early 20s who read my stuff, who are like really into like Von Baudet and Robert Crumb comics, and so that was inspiring. Yeah, and a lot of young women too, so that was cool.
It's like the Chester Brown Paying for It comic. Which is I think it's one of the bravest comics I've ever read, where he's putting out there I paid for sex for a lot of years, and here's what happened.
I think he's going to do a follow up for it, but I don't know if that ever happened.
No, it was solicited in previews this past month.
Oh, it was?
Nice. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, because my understanding is he's in a long term relationship with a woman who he met through her, like paying for it.
Oh, I don't know. Is that true? Yeah, no.
Nice. The one thing I remember about Chester is that one scene I think it's in I Never Liked You, where he's masturbating on a chair and he's rolling his penis between his both hands like he's trying to start a fire, and I'm like, that looks really painful, man. Like do you
remember in Peter Bag's Hate, in the letter column, they made fun of that. He drew Stinky. He's like, Stinky doing the chest.
Yes. And now Stinky's dead, unfortunately. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Stinky's dead.
I always think about something strange about Chester Brown for me is I feel like during kind of Ed the Happy Clown and Underwater and everything, I feel like his public image was basically like Craig Thompson, and they did Paying for It, and he's like slowly morphing as a werewolf into Robert Crumb and people's opinions of him.
There are huge sections of Ed the Happy Clown that are really hot, and I don't think he gets credit for, like with the Vampire Woman.
Oh yeah, the Vampire Woman's fantastic. It's
really
disturbing.
Yeah, well, disturbing, of course, but there's a very alluring undercurrent to all that I think doesn't get talked about a lot.
Yeah, he's a very really he does beautiful illustration. He does draw really beautiful women, and it's funny how much that's not what he's thought of, because there is kind of back to the Craig Thompson thing. I think there's a connection between those two artist styles, and Craig does get a lot of credit for drawing really pretty women.
Yes. Yeah. As do you.
I'm gonna say not as pretty as yours, Brandon.
Right, but this is very true.
There's always like Manara is always the Mount Rushmore for me.
Sure. Yeah. Serpieri can definitely hold his own.
I used to look at Manara's work and be like, I can replicate this. This is so friggin' easy. And then I would try it, and it's like, nope, not so easy.
That's okay.
Since I talked to you guys last, I got to draw next to Manara at a convention, and that was...
oh, really?
Oof,
I've never drawn better con sketches because I kept looking over and seeing him do these, Sistine Chapel illustrations.
Did you work in exchange? He's like, hey, man, a little swap? That would have been awesome.
I got a sketch from him. I have a copy of Butterscotch that he did. Drew a picture of the honey character in the front of it. I actually put it in. I put it in the back inside cover of Surviving on Mars as a little scan of that panel.
Oh, can't wait. Yeah, is it in the PDF?
It might be. There might be things in that didn't make it into the PDF because me and Sean at Living Line kept kind of tweaking things.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, it's on the back.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
it says
Brandon. Yeah,
Brandon.
See,
yeah.
I thought maybe you were just riffing and drawing like Manara, but
No,
okay,
that's
that makes it.
Manara. Yeah.
I've tried to draw Manara. It's deceptively hard. Like I think on my Instagram, I tried to draw a picture of his Golverina as his female Gulliver Travels character,
Right.
and it was difficult. I remember after that, Manara's editor sent me a text that he had shown it to Manara, and it was just like a photo of them at lunch with Manara giving a thumbs up. So I didn't know he'd look at it, but that's exciting.
That's awesome.
I'm partial to the first collage because Casey, but
Yep.
Oh,
yeah, she's cute.
it's a pretty lady.
I want to make it awkward.
No, it's fine. You say that she's no shortage of enjoyment for people telling her she's pretty.
Nice.
I just don't want it to all go to her head. We didn't bring it up at all.
And when does
That's
Surviving on Mars come out? Because we got the advanced PDF. But
September 24th.
oh,
Right.
nice.
Yeah.
Hard copies
Right.
are coming through our favorite
Best
outlets.
month ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how this one printed because Living the Line is like one of the reasons I really get along with them and really like their books and everything, but they're Sean's really trying out some interesting stuff with this one, and for this one specifically, he wanted to make it really toothy and I was thinking a lot of almost like Charles Bukowski poetry books when I was like cobbling it together because I read those a lot. Like, I'll just be like in the bathtub and have like a poetry book and read a couple of them and put it down. And so I wanted to almost have that feeling book of it not too precious because Moonray is like one of the big things about making Moonray hardcover. It's that we're always struggling and never got profit hardcover, and so it was almost like trying to go back to that. And so I'm interested in kind of all the different formats and things I can do with Living Line.
I have to limit my exposure to Bukowski. I have a lot of the books, but I get very angry after reading a couple of pages of Bukowski. I mean, pissed off.
Is it because his worldview or because of him?
I think it's just the energy within the words. I don't find fault with either. It's just there's something very powerful and potent, I think, within the words that just I get. It's kind of like watching a kung fu movie.
Sure.
You think you can go out and break a board, and you can't. But the words that Bukowski chose and the way he put them together, it's just very, very powerful, I think. And so I have to very small doses.
Nice. That is the thing. Kind of going back to what we were talking about like just lines on paper. Like even if it is just lines on paper, kind of words on a page, it is amazing the kind of emotions that things can evoke.
That's
also,
very true.
I love your Matrix series idea too.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. If that was actually a thing, it's like I think you would actually salvage the franchise.
I should send that. Darrow works a lot with Witch House.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he does.
That would be really, really fun to do. I did that after watching. I had really Matrix 4 or something, and I didn't love the movie, but I kind of tried to channel my hopes and like, what would I want to see?
Well, it's a hell of a lot better than a 20-minute rave sequence where everybody's just dancing and fucking. Like, who wants to see that?
Yeah, 4 was better than 3 for sure.
Oh, 3,
it was.
3's atrocious. Yeah,
Yeah, 3. No, yes. But the one that they tried to come back with wasn't horrible. I agree with Jason.
I thought at the end of The Matrix that when Neo's flying, I'm like, holy shit, 2 is going to be the best superhero movie ever.
Well, for sure, I was like, this is going to be the best movie I've ever seen.
I know, and then you get to 2 and it's like, what? This is not. Yes. No.
But the French,
it was weird. It got really kind of like it felt like existential anime.
Yeah.
After a while, is Neo dead? I don't even know.
There's 2 good things about Matrix 2.
Okay, what are they?
Both of them owned by Monica Bellucci.
Monica Bellucci,
Yeah.
Merovingian.
Say again?
Oh, she's in this great French movie called Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's also it's like a kung fu tricorner hat early American movie, and there's a scene where her breasts turn into mountains.
Yes. As they should.
Yeah, as they should.
That's
just
right.
how they feel emotionally. I was going to say Speed Racer is probably my favorite Wachowski movie. Have you seen that?
Wow. Okay. I haven't, only because I'm hesitant.
No, it's a great movie.
Okay.
I mean, are you beholden to the cartoon?
No, that's the thing.
It's
It
not.
was never.
It's never. It's
Right.
not great. Yeah, I think the movie is kinetic fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and also if you're a Jeff Darrow fan, there's animated the cartoon. The little kid is watching it. That's just Jeff Darrow drawings.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of like the shit I get for loving The Spirit.
Oh,
Well,
The Frank Miller directed Spirit.
I think The Spirit's a great movie. It's not.
Yes, you do.
It's not Will Eisner's Spirit, but it's a great movie.
yeah, I definitely agree with that because I feel like my problem is I'm a bigger Frank Miller fan than a Will Eisner fan, so I enjoyed all the Millerisms.
Right.
And the dwarf actor with the dwarf bellhop.
Yes.
The photo, when they show him the photocopy of the woman's ass, and he spots it immediately. Like that scene worth the movie.
It is a good Eva Mendes movie. And I think I have no problem if you want to make your own thing or do something different. We live in everything. We've got what ifs and else worlds and multiverses and doppelgangers and analogs, and I'm fine with all of that. But I still need and this is totally subjective, but I still need a good story. I still need something that's going to entertain me and keep me watching from start to finish. And every time I try to start The Spirit, I cannot get. I get a little farther each time, but it's still difficult for me to get.
So
through.
crazy. The Spirit movie is the cinematic equivalent of Frank's DK2. He's saying, "Fuck you, fanboy. This is what I want to do. If you don't like it, then leave."
Right, exactly. I don't need to sit somewhere for 90 minutes to be insulted. So
Insulted.
fine.
It's such a good movie.
You just said if you don't like it, go kick rocks. I'm saying,
but
I'm going to go kick rocks. Then
you should let it just wash over you. It's such a good movie.
I think I prefer it to Dark Knight 2.
The miniseries or the movie?
Oh, The Spirit I prefer to Dark Knight 2. I think.
Oh, okay. Well,
my wife thinks Batman Begins is one of it's her favorite Batman movie, period. But it's one of her favorite. I'm hesitant to call those superhero flicks, but she absolutely adores Batman Begins. She thinks that's a fantastic movie. It's near perfect for her. Okay. And she, between the two of us, she's a huge Batman fan, but she fell asleep trying to watch The Dark Knight twice. She tried watching it, she fell asleep before it finished. She tried watching it again. It happened again. She did finally get through it, but it's
the animated one. You mean?
It was just her problem with the second Nolan movie was just that everybody had a speech to give, and the two villains, and it wasn't. She kind of wanted a continuation of the first movie, and that's that.
I should qualify. I'm a huge Batman snob, and that I absolutely love the Frank Miller Year One and Dark Knight Returns and
Yep.
J.H. Williams and Seth Fisher's Snow series. And then aside from that, I don't really like many Batman comics.
Wow. Well,
Well,
you
we're
like
early on
the
year
good
one.
ones, yeah. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, those are the ones to like. So
and DK too, but yeah, it's okay.
I should qualify too. I put it. It's like in Frank Miller. It's one of those things where like a bad Frank Miller comic is still a Frank Miller comic.
Yeah.
So it's just Dark Knight.
Stop it.
And I don't like Holy Terror from a craft level, but it's still
Sure.
It's because I'm judging it next to Sin City too.
Did
My dude.
you'll notice that none of us said, in answer to Brandon's question at the start of the show, none of us rattled off Frank Miller Presents as a publisher who we buy everything from. So,
Well, Vince and I, we bought Ronin too.
I saw Ronin 2 is now published by Abrams.
Yes.
New previews.
Yes. You get
the collected edition.
officially
Yeah.
kaput.
no,
Right.
you
My
get
main hope, though, because Milo Manaro is doing a Sin City right now, and that's kind of what I need to have.
Oh.
Frank Miller.
Okay. Well, that's another situation. I'm for that for sure.
hype.
Yeah, there's been one drawing release for it, just a drawing of I think Nancy.
Oh boy,
Hype beast. Jason.
Brandon,
Yeah,
tell me
so-
you've seen Scavenger's Reign, please, because I when I was watching Scavenger's Reign, I thought that's a world that you could have helped create.
It's funny. I actually avoided it for a long time because when people reach out to me and they're like, "You have to see this. It looks like your art." I'm just like, "Never mind. I don't want to. I don't want to watch it." But I watched one episode of it, and I really like the flora and fauna of it.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's one of the most truly alien worlds, right? Like I think far too often aliens are depicted as just humanoids with a different skin tone or horns or something, whereas like this, the whole environment, the way things survived, the way they interacted, it just felt super alien and foreign, which I thought was just amazing.
Yeah, so I'll probably get back to it in some future date. I have a weird thing with animation because the little bit I've worked with animation, I overthink it when I'm watching it sometimes, and I start to think about like was this storyboarded in one country, sent over to another country, and then someone that doesn't even speak the same language was drawing it in a little cubicle. I get in those tangents in my head for some reason.
Well, I can't speak. I can't speak to that. I can just say that the finished product is hella great, and
Yes.
I guess I'm not surprised. I'm not the only one that's ever mentioned that to you, because as I was watching, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, and I think we follow, me and some of the people that work on that follow each other on Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before I even knew what the thing was, I was like, "This is pretty,"
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
So okay, so we've got Surviving on Mars coming September 24th. When will people need to should be looking out for Moonray Book 3 crowdfunding?
Good question. I know we're doing them. I think we're doing them yearly now, if I remember right. So I should remember, but yeah, because initially we were doing more books, and we were going to put them out more often, and then we decided to slow down a little bit because it was kind of asking. We're trying to figure out like kind of what the market bears and how much, because I realized one of the cool things, to sidetrack a little bit about Work with Live in Line, is I realize I have a ton of books that are out of print now, and so I'm trying to figure out how many I should print a year of things like my
Sure.
Escalator book and Universe So Big and all the adult stuff and everything. So yeah, I think it'll probably be another 6 months or so. Usually just on my Instagram, and Live in the Line also has a newsletter they send out. So we'll announce it on that. But yeah, it's book 3 is done. I'm just lettering the Show pages this week, and then I have like literally one more page to draw, and then I'm about 6 pages into book 4, and I've got to wrap it up in hopefully an interesting way. I have some plans. It's
nice.
cool. It's been an interesting series. One of the things I don't think I touched on with Moonray is I was trying to use it to explore different ideologies.
Mm-hmm.
And so even in like the Hive as the villains in it, the Hive, kind of thinking of them as like a hive mind collective, it's kind of like a negative thing. I'm working on a chapter where I'm trying to show that in a positive light, like how does that work out for people? Like things like the City of the Green they go to. I was basically like trying to think of like using a living city that was in a positive way, to kind of think about like what a kind of communal, almost like a Buddhist environment would work like.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's the thing. I like Vince said too. I mean, this book, it's interesting, like trying to market something like this, because obviously you leave it that it is tied into a video game, but like, it's just, to me, like, I don't know anything about the video game other than what you guys talked about, but it's like this book is like, it almost feels strange that it's connected to some kind of licensed IP, right? Just because like it feels so completely original. But it sounds like that's because you were given pretty much a blank canvas to do with as you wanted.
Yeah, that's part of it. And I'm really lucky in that the guys that kind of did the groundwork in the video game were reading Prophet and were fans of that stuff. So a lot of it, like, because some things like the Iltar and the Miam and things like that was already in place when I came on board, and then I just kind of fleshed it out. And it felt like, because I've been really writing it and doing it like it's set in a, like, even like a farther down the line in the same Prophet universe.
I like it that I get the feeling that maybe Iltar did make the best choices. Like in fantasy stuff, more often than not, you get a deity, and it's like nobody questions anything coming from the deity. It's like, okay, we have to do this, and we'll do it because, the goddess or the god commands, and they do it, and that's the whole thing. But in Moonray, I'm getting a sense that maybe Iltar isn't as, I don't even know the word for it, but let's just say trustworthy.
Accurate.
Yeah, and another thing that about the books that I was so happy, and it's odd in a sense that the cast that we're introduced to in book 1 does not continue into book 2. It's crazy. It's like, oh yeah, all those people that you kind of I say people, but that is another comment I have. But all of those characters that you were introduced to in book 1, save for Adam, really don't appear at all in book 2. Like, that's great to me that you would take that kind of a risk, being so confident in the overall story at the expense of reader engagement.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's an experiment in a lot of ways. I mean, those characters, it's interesting because I think that there's something fun about taking something away and then having it change off panel and then return. So I'm doing that with some of those characters.
Right. I think the sword is super hot, by the way.
Oh yeah, she's the people that play the video game really like. She's in the video game, and she's basically like, she looks like Amber Rose without a face.
There you go. And that's one of my comments, without a face, that none of the characters in either volume even remotely resemble a human being. Some are anthropomorphic, but for the most part, you're working with the bare minimal facial features. Some of these characters don't even have eyes, and you manage to eke out all of this wide range of emotions from the smallest of facial details, and I think that's incredible. Like, I envy that.
It's been really, like, that's one of the fun parts of it, is basically like doing, like, there's something kind of I got from Eisner, as he talks cartooning as a form of acting, and so you almost feel like I'm trying to do like character acting and not allowing myself to have facial expressions carry the weight, which is
right.
Which is really fun. I should explain the impetus for that was because it was being done in Unreal Engine, which is this video game. The video game was being done in Unreal Engine, which is the same kind of engine that the Fortnite video game is done in.
Right.
And with it, they're able to make things look really realistic, like a rock can just look like a photo of a rock. And so these characters all kind of look like they're made of clay and everything. And so we kind of went with, I feel like I was involved in this decision. At some point, we talked about how no one should have feet or faces. And part of that was that we wanted to avoid the uncanny valley of how weird it looks if you're playing like a Grand Theft Auto and somebody who almost looks like a video of a person but not quite shows up, and how weird that can be. Right. And how it kind of makes the game cooler if you kind of can't tell what's real and what's a video game.
Well, Adam basically floats through both volumes.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's got these like pointy, footless legs. That and that's an interesting thing. Sometimes also, and another strange thing is he has one hand and the other is like a club,
right?
And so I'm having to try to remember which is which all the time. And something like I'll try not to give away too much of the future story, but something that I'm playing with and that I really am having fun with is this idea of they're made out of this malleable clay stuff that you can you could cut off someone's hand and the hand will still kind of retain some of their personality. And if you reform that hand into a little person, that little person could just go off and live its own life and have kind of the base great personality of that. And what happens when you mix those things around? You take different personalities from different characters and mix it around. And what happens if someone can't die, but they just reform into different things? And then the characters don't even hold memories of who they are. Some of it, like I'm playing with characters kind of realizing that they are part of different things they didn't realize they're part of. And then what happens when you split a character in two and one goes off and lives separate lives and things like that? So
you do get the sense of that in the book.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
that's good.
That the Mium is kind of contains more than one lifespan.
Certainly.
Yeah. It's again to verbalize this stuff is one thing, but to actually experience it the way you've done it in the book is another.
Right.
And I think the narrative takes a very slow progression where like you don't overload. And I like the way you did that where you, I believe it was in the Mars book where you said you don't like being hit with a shit ton of verbiage going into a creative work, where you like it where it's just, you're introduced to the environment and you let it gradually build and progress. And I love that too. Nobody wants a scroll unless you're watching Star Wars, right?
Right, yeah. And I try to think about like how you want to, like ideally I want to make the kind of books where people will like set out some time and make themselves a tea and sit down and like actually make an experience, and it's not just something that you're reading folded over on a rickety bus on the way to work,
Right. You're assuming that the reader has enough patience to come along for the ride, and I like that a lot. Because these days, comics are consumed quickly. Where Moonray, you can't do that. You have to just immerse yourself into it and let the...
Yeah, I don't think like of all the people that we know that are fans of Brandon's work, like I think you can't be the kind of person that likes to just zoom through comics. Because I think, frankly, you wouldn't, like you might not even connect with it. You might not necessarily be a fan of Brandon's comics if you were just like rush through it. Because you know what I mean? Like you really do need to take your time with most of them and kind of get settle into the vibe and then go for the ride. That's kind of one of the things I've always liked about your work, Brandon. I've told you this, like it's just immersive. It takes me somewhere, which is great. So
I wonder how much of my style was set up specifically to kind of slow people down, and also there's that thing of I used to think of it as the idea of like comic book currency almost. It's like if you're if pesos and you try to walk into a place in France, they're not going to know it. And I always think of like you almost want to develop readers that are like, I speak the same language as this book.
Yes.
And it's a little hard too. Like something I should mention too is Wyatt Kennedy, who writes the series Night, did a chapter in the next Moonray book.
Oh, nice.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. I almost wish that Moonray wasn't in English. But I mean, yes, the audience, the audience wouldn't get it. But for the book to be in another language would have been like the icing on the cake. It would have been indecipherable, and some of it would have been, impenetrable. But it would have been cool, right? But
one of the chapters I'm lettering right now, it has a bunch of characters that are speaking a different alien language. Because Shershel drew this fantastic fight scene, and it has these beats that really need dialogue. But I really wanted to avoid just having like watch it, ow, so they're all speaking a fake alien language to kind of where the beats are there.
Oh, great!
That's funny. That's always, it reminded me of the dig I always say when I book but don't like the writing. I always say like, man, I wish I owned this in Chinese.
Yep. I feel that a lot, that way a lot about comics these days. Looks great, but yeah.
Can't wait to see where it's going, right? That's
you
other
go.
one. Like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, listen, we have taken up a lot of this gentleman's time. We've had him on this here podcast for more than 2 hours, so I think we should wrap up. Let the man get back to his life.
Sure. Hey, everybody, get yourself to a comic book shop or somewhere you can pre-order comics. Get yourself Moonray Volume 1 and Volume 2. And it's coming out. When did you say? Surviving on Mars?
Surviving on Mars comes out September 24th, so 5 weeks from the time they hear this.
Now, they're journal comics, but don't let that deter you. They're journal comics unlike any that I've seen before. They're
super finished stuff. Like I said, I thought Brandon was going to come on here and say he had rough sketches in a journal, and he took those as the inspiration for these pages. So no, these are fully formed Brandon Graham illustrated pages about his life.
Each page is an insight into the person that is Brandon Graham. So if you're a fan, you need this book. All of them are coming from Living the Line publisher, and if you're not familiar with them, oh my goodness, get yourself online and just learn some stuff. Living the Line.
No, we got to have them. We got to have them on because we literally have been talking about them nonstop, and I know they.
Oh yeah,
know that, so.
Their knowledge is really fantastic. There.
Yeah, it's true. Let's get them on. So there you go. It's the world belongs to Brandon Graham.
It does, and I, if I might say, I mean, we don't know each other that well, but I know we've kept in some communication over the time, and it's great to see that it seems like you're really happy and fulfilled and living your best life. So
yeah.
I hope that's the reality, because that's how that's the vibe I'm getting from you. So
yes,
yeah. No, I'm really thrilled that I get to make comics and that people like them. Like, it's something I never want to lose. The the excitement of I can't believe that people are willing to spend money so I can noodle around on paper and have fun with this stuff. It just seems like I'm getting away with something still, even though I've been doing it for, living off of it for 18 years now or something. It's still, it's like, oh wow, this is still happening. That's cool. So yeah, I appreciate it.
So please tell Casey thank you for dropping our name in the intro.
You took the words out of my mouth. I nearly fell out of my chair seeing that. That was great.
And
we didn't even get to the origin story of how she heard my voice before we ever met because of you guys putting me on here. So thanks for getting me a partner.
You're welcome.
Yeah, man, it's all cosmic. It's great. I love it.
Next time, why don't you bring her with you and she can?
I thought she was going to jump on. I was right. Yeah, I thought she was going to jump on today. So.
Oh yeah. Anytime you guys want us back, she's just in the other room working on her own writing right now.
Well, it won't be another 12 years, that's for sure.
No, for sure. Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll hit you back after, either when the next Moonray's up, or when you you mentioned 3 or 4 other things tonight that I don't know the timing of. I guess they're all in process. So I don't know if you have sort of a line of sight as when we'll see those. But we'd love to have you back.
2 books a year right now, unless I'm doing a monthly again, and that'll be faster.
Yeah.
Which is also another weird thing, is because of getting my schedule with Moonray, it's like for the first time in my life, I think I could do a monthly where it would have done me in, 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, the more comics you put out, the happier I am. So get to work.
Yeah. Doors always open for both of you. Come back soon.
Yeah, for sure. It's great. It's thrilled to finally have you back, and hopefully it'll be much more frequent.
Yeah, anytime. I'm going. If you guys want to go through previews ever, I'm doing it. It's been fun.
Nice. All right.
Awesome.
Love it.
That would be
That
so
is a
cool.
lovely ritual. So. Yeah, right. For sure.
Excellent.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks so much for the time, and we can't wait to have other people get their hands on Surviving on Mars.
Cool. Yeah. Great talking to you guys.
Yeah, it's so great.
Right on. Have a great night.
Have a great night, man. That was like I said, that was a fun time.
It wasn't.
It's not.
The thing about it wasn't forced. Like
Right.
like Moonray, it was a very gradual unraveling of ideas, and that's conceptually it's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had a feeling that it was going to go that way. I was hoping anyway, but the final outcome was far greater than my hopes. So, yay.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he wants to come back is awesome. I would have him back tomorrow.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what have you asshats been reading?
Man.
What?
I don't know if I want to respond to that. Nom de guerre.
You kind of have to.
Well, can I just say, and again, I'm not trying to always shit on Marvel, but I in fairness, I did.
You do always shit on Marvel, whatever.
Okay, well, in fairness, I did say that I enjoyed Blood Hunt, I think, more than most because of the subject matter. But I gotta tell you, the first listen to me. The first issue of DC versus Vampires, World War V, #1, was about 30 times more enjoyable than Blood Hunt. It was a fucking hoot.
Does this build on the previous vampire books, or is this a new standalone series?
No, well, it is a direct sequel to the first 12-issue series. It takes place a few months later in that world, because it's in Elseworlds for people. And in this Elseworlds, basically the Earth has been taken over by vampires, and this takes place a few months after the end of the last series, which basically ended with the vampires winning, but making somewhat of a truce for reasons I don't want to spoil, where they pocketed off a part of the Earth where the humans could live. So that's where this picks up. But this is a civil war. This is, now that the vampires are in control, there's a established leadership, and then there's a new faction of vampires that are trying to raise up. So, but it was so much fun. Like, you know what? I'll tell you this part because Dap, this is right up. So, the book starts where Jon Stewart and Kyle Rayner come back to Earth after being gone for more than a year on a mission, right? And they look around and there's like no one around, and they're like, "What the hell is going on?" Like, Hal's on Earth as the Green Lantern. Like, Hal didn't say anything to us about like what's going on. And, then not knowing that this Earth that they're returning to has been taken over by vampires. And so a bunch of the vampiric superheroes roll up to them, not knowing, and they attack them, and they're fighting or what have you. But it's like Wonder Woman, who's one of the top vampires, she shreds Kyle Rayner to pieces. Like, and I was like, oh, Dap would love this.
Yes.
Like,
yes, he would.
And then my man Jon Stewart, who's a little more adept, thinks he's escaped all of their clutches, and Vampire Elongated Man stretches out like a giant, like, monster, like plesiosaurus with a long neck and eats him.
Goddamn.
That's how the book starts. The book's just super fun. It's over the top. The way that they kill each other is just awesome. Otto Schmidt's a beast. I gotta say, it's I mean, not that the world can't have more than one superhero vampire gig, but this one is, I think a lot less people have read this, and a lot more people should, because like, if you read Blood Hunt and came away enjoying it even a little bit, you gotta just go read DC versus Vampires. It's way better.
This is World War V? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the whole title, because comics cannot have simple titles these days, is DC versus Vampires, World War V, #1 of, I think, 6. And
this takes place pretty deep into the mythology of DC versus Vampires.
Like I said, it's basically the 13th issue.
Okay, that's not so deep.
Right. Yeah.
Right, if you wanted to.
Well, and then there was another 6-issue miniseries. So, but I'm saying, like, but this is essentially, because it's the same creative team. It's basically the 13th issue of their story.
Right. Oh, the cover's cool.
Oh, it's great. It's just so much fun, man. It's just so much fun seeing these characters as vampires, and how petty, how sedity they are to each other. It's just funny.
How what? What is that?
Sedity.
What does that even mean?
We've talked about this before.
I've never talked about sedity. I don't know what that.
No, you haven't. You haven't. You would not.
Because it was in Far Sector, and we flipped out about it. It's basically calling someone stuck up or like conceited.
Yeah, I've never read that. So
should read more Far. Should read more books that we talked about.
Yeah, it's snobbish, acting superior. It's just high acidity is like the full, but yeah, because Renee would always Renee and her friends would throw that word around from time to time. But but seeing Jemison actually use the word in a comic book, a Green Lantern comic book, no less, I was all about it.
Very funny. So yeah, man. So I had to give it props. It is a fine time to be a vampire comic fan. Let me tell you.
It is. There's a lot of vampires out there.
It's like pretty much, yeah.
Vampires are the new zombies. Yeah.
Boom. Yep. Jinx.
Yep.
I'm not mad at it.
No. Who doesn't love vampires?
Yep.
Not only
what are you often reading?
The Matt Wagner, Kelly Jones, Dracula, The Impaler is out, and it's very good.
No, when because I don't have it, and I'm 99% sure I pre-ordered it.
I know it was Kickstarter, wasn't it?
I think it maybe came out last week.
Okay, I haven't got it.
I got to say, it's. I mean, I like Kelly Jones a lot. There were periods in my life where I loved Kelly Jones, but I think this is the best Kelly Jones has looked in a very long time.
Nice.
Yeah, and Matt's just having fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good
I
book.
see it on Dap's list. I don't know if it's on Vince's list. No, it's not. But Dap, tell me you love Jonny Quest as much as I did.
Oh, God.
Is it not on your list because you read it?
I read it, yeah.
Okay, that's what.
Okay. No.
It very much reminded me of the Jonny Quest story that we read when we had that single issue random shuffle months back, and where it kind of like took Johnny into the future. I didn't know because I didn't read I didn't pick up my free comic book day issue, so I didn't read the Zero or the lead in. But I did because it was based on what it was, and as long as you're not, as we just discussed in the discussion with Brandon, as long as you're not beholden to the source material, I had way more fun with it than I expected to.
Oh, you didn't think you were going to enjoy it?
Only because it's Dynamite and because I haven't had a good track record lately with licensed work. So, because of that, I brought baggage with me, but I thought the art was good.
Wait, though, but I would challenge that statement because you're getting the Transformers and the Joe comics, and at least unless you've changed your opinion, I felt like you
said
enjoyed those
from
stuff.
Dynamite. He hasn't had.
Oh, just in Dynamite. Okay, got it.
Well, yes. I mean, there was Thundercats, and Space Ghost, but there was also Gotcha Man from Mind Cave.
Oh yeah, no, that's true.
So
yeah, they were all
so
butt.
yeah.
They were all
so
butt.
we've had a couple of months where things are just so no, but yeah, I will be back for the second issue. I know how Vince feels about certain aspects of sci-fi, certain genres within genres, so I can get maybe one thing that he wasn't grooving to with this, as if we're talking about like he's not here.
Yeah, it's fine.
But no, what was your turn off, Vince?
Okay, out of the gate, I'm not a huge Jonny Quest fan.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Marty used to love Jonny Quest, and I never saw any of thing that compelled me other than Alex Toth. Nothing really compelled me to watch those cartoons. I didn't like them as a kid. I just thought they were there, right? I thought I have the issue up, so let me get the guy's name right.
Sebastian Paris.
Joe Casey wrote it.
Okay, so Sebastian Paris inks his own work. And therein lies the problem with this issue. I think the lines are
very thin,
far too thin.
They really
some of these panels are wispy thin, and it's like that's not what I think of when I think of Jonny Quest.
Yeah,
I think of bold Alex Toth lines. Yeah, I just didn't like the look of this issue. I thought it was a whiff visually.
Oh, I really enjoyed it.
Good.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about, right?
Yep. I mean, you're not wrong about the wispy thin line, but I thought he pulled it off.
But I gotta say, I also read Defenders of the Earth. and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So because
I don't either.
there are real flesh and blood people attached to these books.
Yep.
So I will say, I'll just leave it at Defenders of the Earth #1 was not a book for me.
It's a comic.
It is.
Yeah, I haven't checked out Mad Cave's Flash Gordon books yet, but as somebody who bought the Marvel Defenders of the Earth miniseries back in the day,
That was fun. Yeah.
came home and watched the cartoon after school. I had a lot of fun with Defenders of the Earth Defenders. So I thought it was... I was looking forward to kind of just revisiting that. Yes, Didio was writing it. I'm not going to hold that against anybody. But that was one where it was almost the reverse of the Jonny Quest, where I might have had kind of some lower expectations going in and was pleasantly surprised. This, I was like, hey man, it's Defenders of the Earth. You really can't... You've got...
How do you go wrong?
Newspaper strips, old school comic book characters. Like, how are you good? This writes itself. And
Arguably the first superhero with the Phantom.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Moonray.
And that's and the whole thing. I mean, with the whole I mean, the Phantom aspect of it, like the whole who's going to grab the throne. I mean, that's all cool. We've got the Ghost Who Walks, and so there's that drama going on. So that could be an interesting little subplot. But the whole Flash Gordon's son and the whole the whole company. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Why do I care about this?
The legacy of the Phantom is passed down upon the Phantom's death. Why is there a female Phantom running around? It doesn't make any sense.
With her uncle. Yeah, I know.
This is weird. I know why she exists. Because she's a female and she looks good in the costume. I get it. But as far as the legacy of the Phantom goes, it makes no sense. Stop. No.
I wasn't happy.
I wasn't either. And again, there are people that make these books, so I don't want to shit on them. I'll just say,
and it's not like
it's just it just didn't click. It's okay.
Nobody working on this book. This isn't any. Well, maybe. Well, no, Wancho. I think I've heard it before, but this isn't anybody's rookie year. This isn't anybody's first attempt at this. This is David Dio and Jim Calafiore. So I mean, these are established creators that have done work that we've all enjoyed in the past.
Yes. Okay.
And hopefully will again in the future. But I wasn't happy with it.
Oh, Calafiore drew it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, he did.
Oh.
I just okay. Yeah, let's move on.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What else you got?
I hate to almost bring this up because this is what I consider this could be an all-timer.
Oh goodness. Oh wait, let me strap in here. Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me get comfortable. Okay.
And if you're not reading it, I encourage you to do so to see just what manga is capable of. It may, I don't want to, Jason's going to say, oh, hyperbole, and maybe so.
Yeah, but I'm the hype beast, huh?
You kind of are. But this is, it is a manga about manga.
Nice.
It's about the people that we usually see manga as a faceless industry where we know the names, Junji Ito, big name, right? And we know the work, but we don't really know what goes on behind the scenes of the manga. The art that is crafted by human beings, right? That's what this book is about. It's called Tokyo These Days. And it's written and illustrated by Taiyu Matsumoto. If you don't know Taiyu
King-Free, right?
Yes. If you don't know Taiyu Matsumoto, shame on you. Number 5, Cats of the Louvre. What else? Sunny. The guy's a master, right? This is another one of those Viz signature books. What's it about? It's about making manga. You have an editor who has been working at the Shogakusha publisher, which is a takeoff on Shogakukan, which is one of Japan's oldest and largest manga publishers. So there's a built-in pastiche, built-in conceit on this looming, this huge monolith of a publisher. This Kazuo Shiozawa worked as an editor at this manga publisher for 30 years. And he loves manga. It's all he knows. It's all he does. It's in his blood, right? And he was lucky enough, or unlucky enough, to be granted the start of a new manga anthology. And so he populated it with writers and artists, and the anthology folds after a couple years. And he sees that as he betrayed the trust of the people he brought in to work on this book. So he quits. He just stops doing what he loves to do. It's that whole honor thing, right? And he takes great pains to distance himself from manga and publishing. But the universe and Shiozawa's spirit have other plans for him. So he lives a very solitary existence. He has a bird. And the bird is, when you read it, when you see it in the interactions with the bird seems to be maybe his conscience. I don't know whether the dialogue between Shiozawa and the bird, they're very advanced. Like, the bird seems to exist on a level above the average bird. Like, it won't leave the apartment, and if it does, it listens to him, and it knows that that's its home, and it has conversations with Shiozawa. Like, it's not just repeating things that he said. There's one part where he gets a phone call from a woman, and he's talking on the phone, blah, blah, blah. And the bird goes, "That sounded like a woman." And he's like, "Yes, it was." And he engages in the dialogue with this bird, far above the communication a pet owner would have with a bird. So you're wondering whether these conversations are actually, quote, real, or if they exist in Shiozawa's mind, or if the bird is something other than just a mere bird, right? So there's layers to this thing. Well, anyway, so Shiozawa quits the publisher, and he's no more manga. I'm done. This is it. I'm retired. First thing he does is he looks up one of the artists with which he had a very close rapport, Chosako Miyazaki. And this guy's work was all the rage at one point, until it wasn't, right? He had a very healthy back and forth with Shiozawa, and they worked very well together. So he tells him, "Yeah, I just quit." And Shosako is like, "What are you going to do?" He's like, "I don't know. We'll see." And before the conversation ends, Shiozawa says, "You know what? I'm going to tell you this. This is how I feel. I hope you don't take it. Hope you don't hold it against me. But I feel like the life is gone from your manga. Like, there was a point where your work was like, it instilled me with joy because I could just feel the emotion from your work." And he's like, that's been gone for the past bunch of years. And what we eventually find out is that Chosaku, who's this really portly, chubby guy, he has been separated from his wife and his young daughter, Luna. And he's getting older, and he's getting more overweight, and he's less healthy. He smokes a lot, and he's finding all of these things over which to obsess because his personal life is not great. It's a shambles, basically. And all of that stuff is filtering into his manga. And then there was an editor an assistant editor who worked under Shiozawa, this young lady named Liliko Hayashi. And she's having a really hard time working with this mangaka named Aoki. He's one of those infant terribles whose numbers they were good, but now they're on the decline. His sales of his tankobon aren't great, and his current series is canceled because of it. And Shiozawa had a great relationship with this guy. In fact, Aoki only listened to Shiozawa, but now he's in the hands of this woman who's his editor, and he's giving her a hard time. He's like berating her and being just unmanageable and foul. And she goes to Shiozawa like, what do I do with this guy? How do I manage this dude? Right? So all of these things are involved in the production of manga that the reader really doesn't see. And yet, over the course of this Tokyo these days, which I am very happy to say, well, I'm happy and I'm a bit sad to report that it's only 3 volumes. So it's not going to really break the bank. And it's one of those things that I think is a hallmark in the production of manga. And it's like, it's a story it's a manga about manga, which is great because you could see that it's just not this mill of just like churning out these stories. There's real people behind the production of these things. Chosaku has an assistant named Kusakari, right? And he wants to be a mangaka. And he keeps threatening to show Chosaku his pages, but for one reason or another, they never materialize. And Chosaku's like, yo, Kusakari, where's those pages? He's like, oh, yeah, I'll bring them. And then you get an insight into Kusakari's life, like what's going on his end of the spectrum. So eventually, Shiozawa tries to part with all of his tankobon. He calls up a used bookstore. He's like, come on over. I got a shit ton of manga. I want to get rid of them all. And the dealer comes into his home and he's doing an assessment of all of the tankobon that Shiozawa has, and he's itemizing it, and he's like, you really sure you want to sell this one? Like, this is super rare. Like, dude, I don't think you should sell this. And he's like, no. I want to part with everything. And the guy gets through all of his manga and he gets a total, and Shiozawa's like, I'm sorry, I made a very big mistake. And it happens when he has a box full of manga and he's moving it from one point to another, and the bottom drops out of the box and all of the tankobon fall all over the place. And he looks at them, and that's when he realizes, like, I really don't want to, I can't do it. So he stops the sale, and this is like almost a turning point in the book because Shiozawa takes his retirement, all of the money that he has coming to him, and he, instead of using it to live for the next X amount of years, he tries to start a new manga anthology. And so he goes to all of the people, the mangaka that he admired over the years or the ones that he worked with, and he tries to convince them to join this anthology. And some of them do and some of them don't. But the problem being that it's an independent project. And most of the bookstores, all of the bookstores really, the high-profile bookstores will not handle a manga that does not have an ISBN that is tied to a major publisher. So he's got this huge stumbling block ahead of him that his outlet for distribution is very, very limited. Does he do that? Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Hayashi goes to the distribution department of Shogakusha and says, you know what? Shiozawa's doing this project. Maybe can we give him an ISBN tied to our publishing house so we can get this thing out there? And once Shiozawa hears about this, he's like, no, thank you for trying, but I don't want to do that. And it's this book is amazing because You would think like it's so mundane, these artists, working behind the scenes and what goes into the production of art. And it's like, how interesting can that be? It is freaking remarkably interesting. Like, it will draw you in. It's a page turner. Matsumoto does incredible things with this book, and and it's like a Robert Altman thing, because you think that Shiozawa is the main character, but he's not. Like, they're all the main character. It's an ensemble cast, and they all have these foibles and these failures, and all they want to do is make good art. It's just amazing. You got to read this. Tokyo These Days. It is absolutely incredible.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much of it away, but there's a lot more to it. Like, even Aoki, the infant terrible, has something working on him that he had in his past life that has caused him to be this very difficult person to work with, and that plays out in the narrative. And Hayashi goes to his hometown. He goes AWOL after a while. They give him a weekly series, and there's like, there's no fucking way that this guy could do a weekly series. It's not possible. And Hayashi molds him into a force to be reckoned with, but at one point he just kind of bails out. He's like, fuck it, I can't take it. And he leaves. It's that ghost from his past that's bearing down on him. And you find out what it is, right? And she somehow coaxes him, because his new series is like all the rage. People are like, holy shit, didn't know this guy had it in him. What's more, like, what can he do? What can he possibly, how can he possibly get better than this? Like, this is great. And his numbers are flying, and the publisher's happy, and Hayashi is. There's a relationship between Hayashi and Shiozawa that's really tight, but it's not. I don't want to spoil it, but you really need to read this, because I think it's an amazing piece of work, and it's not just people beating the shit out of each other. It's human beings behind the scenes, everything they go through to produce their art. Like, people these days think that, we're content whores. All we want is the stuff. Give me the stuff. But this book details what actual flesh and blood individuals go through to make this stuff. Mm-hmm. It's great.
Well, listen, you can't get enough of the stuff, but I just pre-ordered. I just ordered the first 2 volumes from our boy Max.
Nice, and it's only 3. They're hardcover.
Yep.
But the thing that got me it didn't make me feel some kind of way, but I was like, a little bit side eye. The average Junji Ito book is larger page count than these things, but Tokyo These Days is $28 a volume. And I'm thinking, does Viz want to, eke out a little bit more money per volume, knowing that it's only a 3-volume series? You know what I mean? Because there's no reason these things aren't $24. But the fact that they're 28, it's like a little. But the good stuff is worth paying for. The art in these books is a cut above. You will not see line work like this in it is just exquisite.
Nice.
Yeah, and the covers are great. The second volume has apples on the front of it, and there's a sequence in the narrative where Kusakari buys apples. I won't say anymore, but it is.
How about them apples?
It's kind of heartbreaking in a sense, but it's just great. It's wonderful. Get this book, Tokyo These Days, 3 volumes, Taiyo Matsumoto, Viz signature. Just buy it. Take my word for it. Just go out and buy it.
Do it.
Yep. There you go. All right, let's look at the clock on the wall. Okay. Hey, everybody. I really, really, really hope you enjoyed this episode. I think it's one for the books, and hope you loved it. In the meantime, get yourself to a comic book shop, buy some stuff, talk about some stuff online, then call back here, because we'll probably be talking about it. Don't forget, cheapgraphicnovels.com. Who doesn't want to save money? I don't see anybody.
I certainly want to save money, yeah.
Right. I don't see anybody raising their hand. So go to cheapgraphicnovels.com, because everything you want is at a very discounted price. Plus,
Damn straight.
check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/11 o'clock comics. We have 2 tiers. One is a $5 tier where you can get a bonus episode, which is coming very soon. It is another one of those behind the scenes things where a lot of this stuff, most of the stuff won't be heard by the average listener because you came in and considered us worthy enough to pay for. Plus, we got the book of the month thing, which we got to get on. We got to get another book of the month out. So you're going to get, actually, within the space of a month, you're going to get 2 episodes that everybody else doesn't get to hear. And then there's a $10 tier where you get that and the dedicated Slack channel, which is like a big old clubhouse where everybody talks every day about comics and movies and TV shows and books and everything in between. It is a family type setting where I wouldn't trade it for the world. So and
it's
music.
A family affair.
And one more time, if you're listening to this on any kind of podcast aggregator, leave us a review because they're important, I guess, because they do things to the algorithm. And we would really appreciate a review anywhere. Apple, Spotify, Podcast Pickle, Jack's Ballsack. Wherever you listen to this, leave us a review. There you go. In your travels. What did I read? Well, I got it right here. Let me just get it. Oops. It is a big-ass book. Published by Fantagraphics. Underground. I don't know why it's a Fantagraphics Underground, but it is. The editors are Roger Hill and Grant Geisman. And if you're a fan of EC Comics, you already know who Grant Geisman is because he wrote that massive Taschen History of EC Comics book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this gigantic thing. Roger Hill, unfortunately, was the editor of this magazine or this fanzine for many years and produced content for this edition and then passed away. Not too long after. So it's a posthumously produced fanzine. This is called EC Fan-Addict Fanzine number 6, published by Fantagraphics. If you have any concern at all for the history of comics, especially pertaining to EC, man, you need to get this. Because this issue in particular is very Jack Davis and Marie Severin heavy. We get Jack Davis's time at Coca-Cola. Did some work for Coke. And I'm trying to find it here. This book is so big, there's like stuff all over the place. There's a Graham Ingalls piece in which Roger Hill details the pairing of Russ Cochran. If you don't know who Russ Cochran is, then I'm not going to tell you. Just Google it. Russ Cochran produced a series of prints by Graham Ingalls at one point, and it's the interaction between Russ Cochran and Graham Ingalls, who was kind of a difficult person to work with, and it's all detailed in this article. You get Jack Davis's Coca-Cola art. Last issue, they published like 100 pieces of Jack Davis's art from Coca-Cola, but this is another one. It is the here's how you can get the complete salesman training kit, and it's all Jack's art from that. Marie Severin actually worked for the Federal Reserve Bank at one point, where she would produce something called the Financial Follies, which was an annual get-together of the Federal Reserve and I guess the whatever those people do in the Federal Reserve. And this is a plethora of Marie Severin art. And it's great. It's great. She did like the annual thing. There is also in here, let's see, a Frederick Wortham's in here. Yeah, you can read it and feel the bile rise in the back of your throat. Jack Davis's Lucky Star. which was a Western-themed series that he worked on. There's an Al Williamson piece that Al Williamson, Frank Frazetta, and others worked on a Buster Crabbe comic that never actually saw the light of day. And you get to see the cover that they produced together in stages. You get the watercolor rough, you get the pencils, you get the inks. It's just it's an insight into a bygone era that focuses on arguably the greatest publisher of comics that ever was. I don't think many people would argue with that. EC Comics, right? At one point, Russ Cochran released a series of prints of EC cover art that were hand-colored by Marie Sevre, and you get to see all of those in here. It is just an amazing issue. It's 138 pages for a lousy $16. And it's not a magazine, it's a book. It's square-bound. So if you're a fan of EC Comics and comics history in general, get yourselves to the Fantagraphics site or wherever these things are sold and buy the EC Fan-Addict magazine number 6. Is worth its weight in gold.
Nice. That does sound great.
No, and it's all on really heavy paper, full color throughout, seldom and rarely seen art. Like, what's not to love about this thing? Nothing. Nothing at all.
Love it.
We should talk about EC more.
Yes.
As long as it's not published by Oni.
Yeah. Yeah. In your travels, this is the first issue of a series by Mad Cave, who apparently have been around for 10 years. This is written by David Hazan and art by Sammy Cavilla. Colors by Ellie Wright, letters by Simon Boland. It is Kosher Mafia. Issue number 1, Keeper of the Books, and takes place on the 7th day of Tishri in the year 5697, also known as September 23rd, 1936. And we first meet Mrs. Berkowitz, who answers the door to a man in a suit asking to speak to her husband. They work together, and he has a message that he needs to deliver to him personally and urgently. She says that he'll be home any minute. So he comes in, sits down. Apparently, her husband is a little secretive, doesn't really talk much about work or people at work. The kids are upstairs asleep already, so they normally enjoy having company over, meeting new people, but that's not to be. And we do finally meet Howard, who comes home and sees this man sitting at his dining room table talking to his wife, and the wife is a little put off, but she because of how the situation seems a bit tense, Howard sends his wife upstairs to check on the kids so he can sit and talk to the guy from work. And the guy from work is here because, Howard's under the impression that, he's retired, and he was allowed to retire with severance. And the man on the other side of the table says, you do know you work for the Kosher Nostra, and when they say severance, they mean this. And he pulls out a pistol, and he says, when they say retire. But before we can go any further than that, we do a flashback to earlier in the day, when Gold who's actually the gentleman sitting across from Howard at the table, is breaks up a little bit of a racket by some Irishmen who are basically kind of like coming onto the wrong territory. So he takes care of them, and the issue is we get some flashbacks with what Gold did during the day, and this conversation at the dinner table, and there's some. What I enjoyed about this issue is that the Hebrew and some of the Yiddish is sprinkled throughout, and it reads true. So Howard is saying a prayer, and which amuses Gold to no end, and says, "Do you really think I'd shoot you in your home with poor Mrs. Berkowitz upstairs with your children, and then she'd have to clean up the mess? There's no way that's not going to happen here." And there's the reason why Eli Gold hasn't gone through with this yet is because prior to coming to Howard's house, there was a meeting with I guess some heads of the crime families, and when Howard was trying to make a case that there's some rumblings, there's some trouble coming, and we kind of have to unite to prevent the Germans from gaining power, and he sees the writing on the wall. He knows what's coming, but the head of the family is like, we're not hearing this, we're not dealing with this, and he sends, after making a spectacle of himself, sends Howard away and tells him, "Listen, you can retire with your severance. Your family will be taken care of. Okay, go with God and have a nice life." And then he tells Gold to go to the man's house and take care of the situation. But Gold wants to listen to what Berkowitz has to say, because he does actually believe what's coming, and it kind of, I'm not gonna say it becomes a buddy flick at that point, but it's seeing this conversation and how they kind of come to an agreement of sorts, and you also find out what happened with Howard's family before they came to America, and some of the crap that they had to deal with, and I thought it was going to go in one direction, and it ended up going somewhere else, and I wasn't I really wasn't mad about it. The art is the art works for the setting, for the story that they're going with, for the characters. It is a period piece, so there's nothing really fancy. If you're familiar with the era, it is what it is. But it is a little on the comic booky side as far as the way the story is presented, but it's still pretty straightforward. It's not it's not like it's a Will Eisner or Frank Miller drawn book. It's still the characters still look like they would work in any sort of, almost like a superhero comic. But the story itself, I thought was pretty interesting. Tried it on a whim. Glad I did. I will definitely be checking out the second issue. See you in your travels, Kosher Mafia from Mad Cave.
That MOT Comics.
That's right.
That's right. MOT Publishing. In your travels, pleased to check out Gilt Frame #1, published by Dark Horse Comics, drawn by Mr. Matt Kindt, written by Mr. Matt Kindt and Margie Kraft Kindt. Yes, Matt wrote a comic with his mom, which I absolutely adore. And this is a pretty simple one. If you are narratively a fan of Wes Anderson films or Rian Johnson films, you will really enjoy this issue. It is a murder mystery about two characters, Sam and Meredith. Meredith is a senior citizen, kind of like an Angela Lansbury type of vibe, you know? And Sam is her nephew, but it's pretty much her son because she raised Sam from when he was very young. So it's like a father-son type of, a mother-son type of thing. And they are like the totally unexpected Sherlock and Watson, you know, and they go around the world solving crimes almost like by happenstance, but they're very good at it. They have an innate ability to parse out these complicated crimes and figure out who done it. So much possibility here, even beyond this first story that they're setting up, and it's Matt loves to play with the form factor. This is a 66-page comic, I think. So it's basically like a mini novella, like a European style novella type of a thing. And I loved it. So Gilt Frame, I'm not surprised I liked it, right? You know, I love the Matt Kint, but I really think this one has a real fun energy to it.
Nice. There you go. I thought it was Gilt, as in Guilt.
No.
It's
No, it refers to the style of chair that's involved in the case. Yeah.
Got that, yeah. There you go. Good stuff, right?
Hell yeah. You know what we should have done? I meant to do. We should have asked we should have asked him what comic artists and writers he thinks we should be checking out. Like that he's been vibing with.
Well, yeah, you were
next time
so eager to get the frig off that
Oh my god! If people only knew.
Harsh.
People only knew.
Nice. Yeah, I like the cover of this Gilt Frame.
Well,
yeah, it's a nice cover.
Mm-hmm.
Did he draw the whole thing?
Yes, he does. So I know you're not going to be into it.
No, I didn't say that. I'll check it out.
You did. It's fine.
Oh my god!
We like what we like.
I don't dislike his work.
You've actively said you do.
No, it's not. It's not like Matt can't fuck that. Not going to look at it. No, I'll at least give it a look. But it's just like more often than not, I would rather read something he's written.
Yes.
He's a good writer. He's a very good writer. Strong.
She's such a nice girl. Such a great personality.
I'm not superficial, so I would never say that.
Oh, no.
Ever.
I'm not. All right, everybody. Hey, thank you for listening.
Janet Jackson, more like Freddie Jackson.
Yeah, he's not going to get that.
I don't understand what you're saying, but that's okay.
It's from the movie Friday.
What? Who? Friday?
Yeah.
The movie Friday?
Who's in
Ice
it?
Cube, Chris Tucker.
Yeah, I never saw it.
Oh,
Shocked. It's my shocked face.
Color me surprised.
Wait, a movie with black people in it? Oh, no.
That's not fair. That is absolutely bullshit.
That's why I didn't say it. I wasn't going to go there.
Kidding, dude. Of course that's not fair. Jesus.
Good lordy.
Yeah, I think we're done.
We poke the ones we
done.
love.
I think we're done in more ways than one.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Good poke.
Hothouse flower over here.
Ooh.
All right, everybody. Come back next time because we love you so much and we could not do this without you. Thank you very much to Brandon Graham. I guess thank these two fools for breathing,
That's right.
whatever. In the meantime, say good night. I got nothing else.
Jaboozy.
David.
What's that?
That's Phil. What? That's Phil
Oh
Collins.
my God.
It's Phil
What?
Collins from Mama. One of his greatest vocal performances ever. But then why would you like that? Because it's his good work.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
David.
Nice.
For a split second, it almost sounded like Meatwad at the beginning of Aqua Teen Tango Force. You lose.
Emotional damage.
That's awesome. That's my favorite. I love that tune.
I love I love the soundboard so much. We're done, people.
The best is when it's just completely unexpected.
Now, see, some people abuse the soundboard.
Can't imagine.
They're not judicious or tasteful in their manipulation of. Oh, you're fucked up. Stop.
That's Vince thinking about Friday.
You know what the bad thing is? The bad thing is that all y'all have access to the soundboard. If it was just me that had the soundboard, this would be a perfect world. But the fact that Jason can go in and just hit buttons willy-nilly, it's... Okay. Goodbye. We love you.
At least. Yeah. Later, bye.
That's it for that one.